Game begin.
It's time to record Spy Colony, the podcast that was born in a car. I said this on a secret episode of Spy Colony that was never published. That I recorded.
Ride back?
Yeah, the ride back.
Yeah.
Because
From Lobster God.
one of the recorders didn't really work, and then I listen. I mean, I actually should publish it at this point because it was kind of like we're delirious, all on like 3 hours of sleep, like on a 1,000-hour drive, and I just tapped out. I stopped at the gas station. I was like, I need BK to drive the rest of the way.
It was you, Sam, and BK?
Yeah, me, Sam, BK, and Lan.
And
Lan was unconscious.
Yeah.
Like the entire time, and so it was me and Sam talking, and because I had won the side event, and then he was just like, what's the deal, and kind of that would have been the first of 3 podcasts that just talk about Dreadnought, and I think if we went to basically the catalog of podcasts that just talk about Dreadnought from the past 9 months, it's just going to be all of them. But
I am sad I didn't get to play the Land's Duplicate Sealed with Sam.
Oh yeah, I mean we just didn't pull out the dupe. We didn't pull out the duplicate sealed, and Lan was just like, "Why'd you make me bring it?" I'm like, I don't know. I thought it would be a fun thing to do, but we had too many fun things to do to choose from. That was just kind of interesting. Oh yeah, it's working though. That was weird.
We're good?
Yeah, we're good. It just changed to white. I don't know why it was not white, and then now it's weird. It's been 2 minutes. All right. So check up on that every 30 or every 10 minutes or so, or I don't know, just to make sure that it's working. Anyways, so what are we doing? We're going to Bearded Dragon today. We're going to play
1K.
We're going to play in a Mox Diamond show.
Was it Mox Diamond for first?
Mox Diamond
Survival
for first,
second?
Survival for second.
I could use both of those because I need a 5th copy for my cube.
Yeah, you need everything for cube. I promised my wife that I'd buy her a real diamond if I won the Mox Diamond. Not exactly. I promised her that I would buy her a really nice juicer.
Oh, okay.
Because we've been making juice at home in a blender, and I'm like, what's the difference between a juice and a blender? And she's like, no fiber, no cellular, no junk, right? And I was like, oh, that sounds great.
But I feel like you want the junk. It depends what you're juicing.
If you want the fiber.
Yeah.
But if you want just a nice crisp...
Right, if you want an orange juice, you might not want to have all that pulp.
No, crisp glass of green juice.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to eat your green juice.
Yeah.
The whole thing is drink your vegetables, but that doesn't work if you're using your teeth to sift through things. So that's the goal, is to come home with a Mox Diamond and a juicer. Weapon of choice, Grow Dog, for the 1,000th time.
So what's the secret tech in this version?
Basic forest.
Okay.
Yeah. Just added 1 windswept heath. I was looking at every land I could possibly play.
I should have brought this would have been good luck. I should have brought the SWB Forest. He gave me a beta forest for my birthday.
Oh, that's hype. I don't know if you can transfer that kind of luck, though.
That's true.
And so it's complicated.
I mean, the SW Blast works.
SW Blast was, I'm in the story, though.
Yeah.
I am the story. I couldn't give you SW Blast. If I gave you SW Blast, you would never draw it. So I added 2 Sylvan Library. I cut the AKs. I just want to talk about this. I think AK is a Parallax Tide combo, a blue control card, but not a Xerox card. I wonder if it's even a Dreadnought card, because it's not a Xerox card. Because I really was, once you say it out loud, you're after you cast 2 copies, it's just a inspiration that you've put, down payment on. It's just
right, the first one does nothing.
The first one's horrible.
Yeah.
You might lose because of the first one.
I mean, let's see. What's really nice about it in Dreadnought is you could discard it to foil. You could discard the first one to foil.
Right. But we have, but you could just, it just begs the question, you could just play 4 Flash of Insight in Dreadnought. It's not like that's not, illegal, you know?
Yeah.
You just put all 4 Flash of Insight. We all bought the maximum from whatever dealer as soon as, we found out that you could.
I think I only got 3 foil.
Well,
but I have
they don't always have. Yeah. Oh, you don't have 4 foils. Yeah, I wouldn't have 4 foils. You could just put the non.
No, I have. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, 4 foil copies of Flash of Insight. So, and I was like, in Grotog, you just keep so many one-landers with, sleight of hand. I was like, sleight of hand would be the card you played. So I was like, how do I play some sort of like long game advantage card that doesn't take 4 slots and like ruin my potential of like being good in the early game? Like, well, my deck can produce green, so I just put Sylvan Library in. And then I was like solving another problem, which was just that every land in the format is unplayable besides basics and Mishra's Factory. It's actually just the same as old school.
Well, I'm playing all of the unplayable lands.
Yeah,
but we'll get to that.
But you can win the game.
Yeah.
Right? My deck just doesn't win the game. My deck just like hangs. I like played a game against Blue White Flippy at the last meetup, and I was just like, well, I'm in complete control of this game. Like, I'm just gonna wait till I draw.
You were on Grotog.
Yeah, I was on Grotog, and I was like, I just need to wait till I draw a creature, like any creature. It just like doesn't matter. Any of them will do. And so I was like going through all these draw steps, and like eventually those draw steps delivered like AKs for 2, 3, and 4. But I don't like that they can get exiled from the graveyard. I don't like that they cost 2 mana. And I was just like, I'll probably just get the same return on investment with Sylvan Library to like stop myself from drawing Mox Diamond in the late game, ideally. And then Basic Forest is just like, well, now I can add like 1 Windswept Teeth to the deck, and I can have 5 fetch lands instead of 4 fetch lands. Because I mean, the other thing was like, I realized that I'm like a portent god. Legacy players know this already about themselves, but like, it took me like many years to discover that like the thing that makes me really excellent at playing Grotog is that I'm a good portent caster. It makes me a good Dreadnought player too.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a good portent caster.
This is not an earth-shaking revelation, right? But you should cast Portent, and then you should put the card that you don't want to draw third. And some may say, like, yes, like the technique here is to use a fetch land strategically to shuffle that card. And I would say no. The even better trick is to opt and scry bottom. Or actually the best trick is just to shuffle every time. Like, it's just shuffling, because you're like, you look at the cards and you're like, God, I can't believe I put this shit in my deck, and then you shuffle. That's like my portent. I don't know, I'm good at casting portent. I've played 2 decks that are like very portenty decks. And I was like, oh, you should play portent in every deck. You should play portent in Mono Blue Tide. Anyways, so portent's so good. I was like, why not portent every turn? I'm like, if I'm so good at this portent thing, why don't I portent every turn?
Well, okay, so then there's some question of like Guile versus Library, and I think
I don't have any Guiles right now. Mike has all the Guiles.
Oh, I have several Guiles, but
why do you have Guiles?
Oh, I just got them. I have like the whole Premodern card pool.
Yeah, you're just ready for anything. So the answer to that question is I would probably play 1 Guile, 1 Sylvan.
Okay.
Because when you draw them both, they actually kind of work together. And 1 mana is half as much as 2. Big deal. But this is like a deck that gets its random stuff plowed and then can use the life. And this is a deck that's very good at Sylvan Library is such a bad card if you read it. And then I realized more and more playing with it is that like, incidentally just like putting a down payment on this like permanent that sort of hangs out. And then just like one of these turns you're like, I need 2 of these 3. And then I'm going to like do something awesome this turn because I drew 2 cards instead of 1. And I knew exactly what they were, right? Like 1 random card versus 2 cards that have been vetted for quality is like enough to like really change how a game is going to shake out. And I think that Miri's Guile not being able to do that was something I experienced with my travels of playing Miri's Guile, like a deck that had 4 Miri's Guile, and I was like, sweet, I played this on turn 1. But then just being locked under the concept of Magic that you only draw 1 card per turn, and the concept of Premodern. Like,
and if you're not playing Enchantress, you're not getting more.
Yeah, you're not getting more. Yeah, so I'm just saying that, like, I'm sort of like sitting there and I'm like looking at the 3 cards and I'm like, I don't need any of these. And even if I shuffle, like I can't the one thing that I do this turn can't be shuffling. Like, I need to be doing more. I need to, like, spend all my mana. I need to, like, affect the board state and, like, whatever. And so you kind of have this, like, incentive to, like, sort of weirdly, like, you have to play, like, a lot of shuffle effects, and you have to play, like, a lot of card advantage so that you're kind of, like, card advantaging through your Miri's Guile. So, you know, so Xerox kind of mitigates the downside where, like, you know, you look at 3 cards and one of them's like a sleight of hand and you're like, great, I gotta get the best of the next 2 and look at 3 fresh ones next turn. So those are all super good things.
So the downsides of Sylvan Library in my mind are, I'm just going to name them. Some of them are not necessarily that bad, but, like, it's a green card, which doesn't grow your Dryad.
Sure.
I think the biggest thing is, like, well, for me, when I think of 8K, I'm thinking about it in a control deck, and one of the things I never want to do in Blue Tide is, like, tap out during my main phase, or during my turn.
Yeah.
And Sylvan Library is not an instant, so it's, like, forcing you to tap out. So I guess I'm wondering, like, how necessary is it for your deck to leave mana up on turn 2? Like, are you safe to just cast a Sylvan Library?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the worst thing I think that they can do... So my deck contains Daze now. I put Dazes back in. I think Daze is like another chapter of this drive. But I put Dazes back in, and so that's one thing. So, you know, I don't have to have as much tap out fear as I did previously. And this topic of tapping out is very interesting. I've started playing more decks that are blue, but, like, could conceivably tap. Like, so I designed
play more tap out.
Just like tap out control deck is so reductive, right? Because, like, what about just tapping out sometimes?
Yeah.
So I made the Beast Attack deck, and I was just like, what if I never played a card on my main phase ever? Like, and that was, like, why I like Beast Attack, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, this is instant. There's, like, no other instant that puts in a reasonable rate creature. You even talked about this on Will's podcast. You hate tapping out. I'm like, I also hate tapping out. But, like, Mishra's Factory and Fairy Conclave are like, suck, you know? Like, you tap on your main phase every turn for them, so you're like, I can only start activating these stupid creatures until I have, like, 1 trillion lands in play.
Yeah, really should be playing Stalking Stones.
Yes. Agree.
That's the tech.
Agree wholeheartedly. Because it's the same card. It's the same outcome, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, like, I don't know, you, like, skirt sorcery speed creature removal. Not that exists. Like, the only sorcery speed creature removal is Wrath of God, and, like, the other ones are, like, Vindicate, which can get a land. Anyways, this is all beside the point. So, Grotog is an interesting deck where it sometimes just creates, like, it doesn't have to, like, hold up a counterspell every turn because, like, it just, I don't know, like, there's nothing you can do to Grotog that is, like...
Well, it's kind of like you want to put a threat on the board and then you want to hold up your counterspells. So, like, the library is digging for your threats and getting you set up.
Well, the library is just, like, I don't know, it's just, like, the worst thing that your opponent can do to you on turn 2 is, like, play Argothian Enchantress or Survival of the Fittest. And you'll have some kind of cue that's, like, a thing that's going to happen to you. Mm-hmm. And then you also have, like... Grotog has so much texture, like, you have answers to everything, right? So if it's like a sideboard game, it's plausible that you're just like, I'm just going to draw a Pyroclasm or whatever. And, like, other, Magic players are so bad, they just, like, play cards into your counterspells. So you could, like, hold up mana.
But you shouldn't assume that players are bad.
Well,
that might be true.
It's just a range, right? So let's say 40% of the time people are like, I don't care, I'm going to play a card into UU. Like, my opponent has UU, I'm going to play a card. Well,
a card that's not a bait, you're saying.
Yeah, like a Argothian Enchantress or Survival of the Fittest.
Yeah.
Instead of, like, waiting or sensibly using something as bait. And once again, it's going to create a curve where it's just, like, the bad players are, like, just jam. And then, like, the middle players are, like, I must wait for, like, the perfect moment. Yeah. And then the good players will realize, like, okay, well, if my opponent knows this is the only important spell, there's no such thing as a bait spell. Like, I can't bait.
Yeah.
Like, Survival Fit is the only good card in my deck. Like, what am I going to... Like, it's going to get countered. Like, I'm not going to trade 2 mana for 2 mana for the rest of the game. Like, then they'll just draw 2 counterspells or whatever.
Right.
So the good players and the bad players just jam, and then the medium players play around counterspells, right? So yeah, I don't know. It's like a weird thing because Grotog's just like a weird, like, somehow I've been playing this deck since the beginning of Premodern, and I still like continue to learn. I continue to learn new things about like why it works. So like one of the things they did recently was like take out the meddling mages, and it's just so weird because on this very podcast multiple times I was like, dude, meddling mage is over. And so I was just like, yeah, meddling mage is so bad, you know, it's just 2/2, 2/2s don't do anything. And then like one of the weirdest things was losing to McLean on Terrageddon, and then just being like, you know what, meddling mage is like a reason why you beat Terrageddon, because you can meddling mage plowshares after you've cast all your plowshares, and then if they meddling mage plowshares, then you meddling mage Terravore, and then they have no creatures in their deck, and they can't remove your meddling mage.
And it's got to be huge against Dreadnought, right?
Well, yeah, it's massive against Dreadnought, but I was just like, I'm just like a deck with like lots of counterspells, pressure, and like whatever. So I like assumed that I could get away with moving meddling mage to like the sideboard and having 2 copies and like whatever. Or yeah, you pointed out to me, you're like, oh, meddling mage is like really good against tide combo, and I was just like, oh, I can't attack through Mishra's Factory, and your deck has 4 Mishra's Factories. And you're like, yeah, but you just like name Keg, and then your permanents are unassailable. And I like the sound of that. And I don't know, it was just kind of like a reminder that meddling mage does something, even if it's a really bad enchantment.
Yeah,
or
even
like
if it can't attack, it still can be good.
Yeah.
What's the card that there's an enchantment that's like you can't play the spell? There's a similar enchantment. It's like the spell costs 2 more or something, and then you can sacrifice it to draw a card. I mean, not in Premodern. I think there's like a...
No, that's what I'm saying, in Contemporary. It's like Deafening Cursive.
No, the one that gives you protection from a card, too. It's
there's, Ruined Halo.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
That's a card. Ruined Halo.
But that card saw play.
Yeah, that was a playable card. Ruined Halo naming Phyrexian Dreadnought.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
Until it gets... Well, you can't chain evapor it, because they'll chain it back to your Dreadnought. Excellent. So, anyways, I don't know. I just like... You know, it's like taking Daze out of Grotog, I think, was just like always a mistake. Taking Daze out of Dreadnought... I think
that's true. I feel like Daze is pretty good. Like, Grotog is a good deck for Daze.
And it's like hard to explain why. And people are like, aren't you going to like Daze and not be able to cast Mystic Enforcer on turn 4? I'm like, you are right. Like, but
are you still playing Mystic Enforcer?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mystic Enforcer is incredible. Like, it's... Because Grotog had one, like, specific problem, which is that it could never defeat Deranged Hermit. Like, it was just like, oh, well, I guess I'm never getting any more damage through. It couldn't defeat Deranged Hermit. In some random cases, like... or, like, by extension, it would, like, lose to Elves. Like, you would probably beat Elves in, like, a long, grindy game where you're, like, attacking through 1/1s, right? But it was just, like, really obnoxious to be in.
Well, you're not playing Fire Ice, right?
Well, no. I mean, Fire Ice is... But it's like a... Fire Ice is, like, a nice one, but it's, like... If they have the 3 tokens left over, it's, like, still not it.
Yeah, I mean Fire Ice for... They're not going to get the Deranged Hermit into play if you're able to Fire Ice their board beforehand.
Yeah. If you pick up a Priest and, like, whatever.
Or fire them, yeah.
You are correct that Fire Ice is good against Elves. But the problem is Elves is not good. I mean, Elves is fine.
I think Elves is really good. That's one of the decks I'd consider playing for Lobstercon.
Well, you got to start getting your reps as a survival deck.
I think people
you can figure it out. Yeah.
I think people overestimate the amount of like time you need to play a deck, like for survival decks or for whatever. Like, I think you could goldfish it for a while and pick up a lot of lines, like watch some videos. I think
You're like a true Magic boomer. You're a very intuitive player.
Well, I was thinking about this when I was playing. I'll detour for a sec to the Trios event that Mike and I were playing in last weekend, where
Mike's trying to learn decks.
Mike's trying to learn decks and has no idea what's going on. But I was playing against some opponents that, like, Underworld Breach is the best deck in Modern. I was not playing it. But, like, my opponent for our Winnin', very good Legacy player, SWB knows him. He was saying it was like his first time playing the deck, but like It is way more complicated than any deck in Premodern, and he was able to like pick it up and play it very well. And we had like some very close games.
Well, Premodern players can't read. Like that's the problem, right? So
what I'm saying is, like, I think if you're a good player, you should not fear picking up a new deck because like there's a high learning curve for it. Because like I don't know, I don't think it's that hard to learn any of these Premodern decks.
Well, yeah, like Itai playing Dreadnought was like pretty straightforward, right? Like if Brian Koval like played Dreadnought, he would just win LobsterCon.
Yeah.
That's complicated because like I don't know. Some decks are weird, right?
I'll preface it where I think knowing the decks in the format is more important than knowing the individual decks.
Yeah. Like having a feel for things is a pretty big deal. I mean, I agree with you. Like I agree with you that it's easier than it is, but I also would take sympathy with like, you know, like it's like it's so one of the things that I take issue with, and I think I talked about it last week, was just like everyone thinks that their pet deck is so good, and like I'm trying to like unpack the reason they think that, because one of the reasons is
I think that because my pet deck is good.
Yeah. That's the topic of the day, right? Because I'm just like addicted to just like playing Grotog in every event instead of like other things, because it just like breaks my heart if I like play something other than Grotog, and like, you know, like this event I just like talked myself into it because I'm just like, we just had like the meetup, like, you know, Mike's posting about playing Dreadnought 4 times in a row, and I'm just kind of like, people are gonna like know that this is a thing, and they're just gonna bring all their Dreadnought hate. And even though I don't really believe that Dreadnought hate like exists as a concept, like it exists to the extent that like I could lose a match, right? And so I'm just like I just go back to my pet deck because I'm just like, well, like I can't, like I think people with their pet decks, they just can't envision themselves losing, like because
or they just imagine the good scenarios, or like
I don't know, they just can't, like they feel like I think they like have like such a it's like a psychological thing, like it's just a barrier, right? Or there's two things, like one people is like some people are just very used to losing with their pet deck, and then that's their existence, and they're just like, yeah, but I have fun playing, you know, and that's like the amount of, for some reason, like they're wired in such a way that like, you know, their wins like create more good for them than the losses create bad. And so they're like, oh, I 3-2'd, but like I'd rather 3-2 with, you know, pet deck rather than going 4-1 with good deck, right?
I mean, I'll do that at meetups. Like I don't care. I'm not playing to win the meetup often. I just want to play a deck that I think
meetups are established like vibey situations, right? But in a non-vibe like Mox Diamond on the line situation,
I'm still fine vibing, but yes, I understand.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were like built in a lab to be like the perfect like kind of person to enjoy Premodern, right?
Yeah.
Like there's still like a lot of tension between like me and like the kind of like player and experience that I want to have and like what Premodern offers, right? Because like I essentially just want to be like the Premodern world champion, and like it's kind of dumb to want that if nobody else wants that, and like because then you're just like, you know,
I think there's a lot of people gunning at these different tournaments.
There are, but like there needs to be like an enormous, you know, it needs to be like, it needs to be like if somebody like said, you know, like say you believe that Rich Shea is the best Premodern player in the world, right?
Sure.
Like that's just like saying, you know, somebody's like the best ultimate Frisbee player in the world, because like if LeBron played ultimate Frisbee, he probably would be the best in the world like immediately. You know, it would take 6 weeks.
I used to be the captain of my high school ultimate Frisbee team.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the outlandish statement that I made?
I think LeBron would destroy everyone on our team. Or like anyone that, like even, we used to just like recruit people from the soccer team, and they would just be way better than everyone else.
Yeah, it's like, can you run? It's like, good. It's like catching a Frisbee is not hard. Yeah. Like just run across this field really fast, like, and like put your body in front of someone else.
If you know how to like dump it back to someone else afterwards, then just run again, like you'll be great.
Yeah. So that's like the thing with Premodern, right? It's just kind of like, I'm like, oh, like, you know, congratulations to, and that's the thing is like, so Brian Selden's like world champion, right? So he was the best in 1999, and maybe he wasn't literally best, and you can make all sorts of arguments of like whatever, and he was like 17 years old at the time and all that crazy stuff. But that's kind of like if anything, that kind of just tells you that there's not going to be like, there's no point in like saying that somebody is like the best pre-modern player in the world, because like, Brian Selden, who is essentially just hadn't picked up a Magic card or whatever, and got into pre-modern. It's like everyone's just doing this for fun, and then it just happens that some of the most like naturally skilled magicians like Brian or like Rich, who have like a huge, pedigree and just being good at Magic, are just going to continue to be good at Magic, right? Like I have no doubt that like David Williams, if he just like played once a month, would like, be locked in. Although it sounds like he doesn't even want to. This guy's one of the top poker pros, and he just didn't want to play a blue deck, and it just like blew my mind. I was like, wait, it's like, you're telling me you find this like mentally fatiguing? Like, I can't even remember my whole cards. Like,
I mean, I agree with him. So I've never played. Well, I guess I did play a red deck in the bot tournament, but like I'm rarely ever playing red decks or Terravore decks. Though I guess I'm technically playing a Terravore deck today.
Love it.
I think pre-modern, like, it's hard to be the best at pre-modern because the format is so like rock paper scissors. Like, every deck has a polarizing matchup. There's some matchups you're gonna face. You'll see this at meetup. Like, you might be able to outplay someone, but you're still not gonna win.
This is lies and propaganda. This is not true at all.
Okay.
Rich just doesn't lose. Like, he loses sometimes, and he does lose to like variants when he does. And like, also, he's like, he just like makes plays that I don't agree with sometimes. But like, the ability for somebody to control their fate in pre-modern is like, you have way more agency in pre-modern than any other Magic format. Like,
but let's say, no, I would disagree with that. I think you have actually a lot. I feel like the in modern, like,
I think this is just because you play Tide, and your pet deck isn't actually as good as you think it is.
No,
if you play Dreadnought, you would never lose a match. You'd never lose a match. Like,
that might be true. I've never played Dreadnought in any event.
Yeah, you should probably just do that for LobsterCon. You should probably just play Dreadnought and LobsterCon, and you would just realize how easy. Like, it's taking the training weights off. It seriously is, and like, that's actually the same. To some extent, it's the same with Replenish, but Dreadnought is like the clearest example of like taking off the training weights, and everyone who does it has the same experience. And I'm talking about like Magic players who are self-identified as like mediocre, right? Like, I was just like, listen, the Bible is for everyone. Like, people may find it intimidating that the Rask Bible, has like touches on some concepts that you can really lock in if you have a good baseline understanding. But really, if you're just anyone, if you're just a Magic player and you like read this sideboard guide, like you'll just become better. And the same applies to you. Like, you would just have the sideboard guide, and then you would just go from like nothing to Sensei in like, an hour. And it would never be hard for you to win a match. And I actually think that like the kind of matches that you might lose playing Tide, like you might lose to like Burn, you might lose to Michael J, which I agree would make you believe that pre-modern is a variance-filled format. but I will tell you that is not the case. Like,
well, I mean, I think you also just play blue decks, which just removes a lot of variance. Like, any deck that doesn't have blue in it is just, you're relying on mulliganing to draw your survival. And if you don't draw your survival, you don't win.
That should cause you to examine, like, you're right. I'm not saying that's zero variance, right? But part of the thing is that, like, it does behoove one to play the deck with the highest skill expression possible, in their skill ceiling and skill expression, right? So like, Rock has a lot of skill expression, but you're just like clawing your way back to 51. But like, Dreadnought has like immense skill expression, immense ability to cooler your opponent's. I know people are so sick of the poker analogies, but like, oh my god, the Cybertruck just got pulled over. I fucking love that. I know people are like sick of the poker analogies, but like, there's like the ability of like people to like win with the losing hand, right? Like winning with the worst hand is like a skill in poker, and some hands and some styles of play give you that agency. Now, the most obvious way to have that is to just be in position, and if you're acting after your opponent, like whatever. So it's not a straight one-to-one analogy, but it is just kind of like this thing where like you know, everybody wants pocket aces, right? But being like really good at playing 5-6 suited or king 6 suited, like is like the mark of like an excellent poker player, like somebody who just like knows to like 3-bet those hands and like get really aggressive and steal pots, and like that kind of thing is your edge. And so so if you were to describe a deck as like a range of draws, right, it's just like or like a range of outcomes, like even if you're a Dreadnought player and you draw your bad matchup, some survival deck, some Enchantress deck, like Dreadnought versus Elves is like a great example. Like the fact that you can cooler the Elves opponent is a huge dimension, and you do that. Variance is involved, but like you need to have the wits to know to get the money in with king 6. Like some people fold king 6, and like and if you sort of understand that and you have a deck that gives you that, you know, ability, then you'll kind of be like, you know, you'll have unbounded skill. And I think that a good, interesting sort of like Sam Black, right, is like doing this thing with his Enchantress deck to maximize his ability to like control like the fate of the game. And the only problem with that deck or Sam's approach is that it's just not the literal best deck, right? The fact that David like sculpted the best deck in the format to kind of like serve his need to like, you know, have agency in all the matchups that he like really cared about and sort of like understand. I don't know. It's like I'm kind of off the rails at this point.
Well, I think what I'm trying to say is like you go to the top tables of so you go to the top tables at LobsterCon and you're not like whatever deck you pick, you still need to just fade matchups, because like everyone that's at tables 1 through 10, whatever, are going to be like competent enough at their deck that if it's the bad matchup, you're just going to lose.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree because people are not bulletproof pilots like in Premodern.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is your assumption is that players are bad, so you're going to beat the bad players.
No. That's like a exaggeration of my assumption. So like there's kind of two things going on here. One is like the divine right of kings, which is just that like, you know, you're destined to win a tournament. and the way to be destined to win a tournament is to do something similar to what you did at LobsterCon last year, which was like you took a deck, you understood that deck from the ground up, except for the fact that you're supposed to keep in tides against burn.
Yeah. Which I did know and then went off of.
Yeah, so...
and then went back to.
Oh, great. So, yeah, you discovered this and you just neglected to keep that in your vocabulary. But, and then you just like seized the day, right? You also owe one into like whatever. And so in hindsight, you kind of create all these stories about plot armor and like whatever. Itai was the same situation. He just vision charmed his winter orb when he wasn't supposed to. Or what he was doing was he initiated turns where he was using Dreadnought as a way to resolve winter orb instead of the other way around. And then another interesting thing was like Selden basically had the idea that he didn't need to care about winter orb, which I think is fundamentally incorrect because Selden can't win through a winter orb, and Itai's deck contains the card Brain Freeze. But
this is the
finals of 2023. Yeah.
Landstill versus Blue-White Dreadnought.
Yeah. Thank you for doing the job of filling in our listeners. So the divine right of kings thing is that like if you show up and you're more prepared than your opponent, like you will win. Like you will win at a rate. Like you also have to be great at Magic, right? It's like, there's no doubt that to win a 300-person tournament, like everyone, especially like Ian Hendry and Cameron Heisey, the repeaters,
and Brian Selden.
And Brian Selden, but we've said enough about him. Like they all are superb, excellent Magic players, but like you show up, you're prepared, and then Ian Hendry and Cameron are like great examples of people who simply played good decks, right? Like they didn't play pet decks. Brian Selden, arguably, he had the read that like Landstill was going to beat Parfait, and that was like kind of a big deal. And like if you believe that Landstill had a favorable Blue-White Dreadnought matchup, that's also points in your favor.
But I think like metagaming is so. I mean, metagaming is like very big in every format, but I think it's just like so important in Premodern, where like you just pick like you have to. I think you do have to sacrifice some You have to sacrifice a matchup where you're winning in against a bad deck with a bad matchup
with a good opponent.
With a good opponent, you are going to lose. If I played against Nick in my winning in, I was going to lose.
Yeah, you would get crushed. But that's because you're playing Tide. Like the difference, right, is that if you were playing Mono Blue Dreadnought and you got paired against Nick, like
are you saying that there's just no matchup that the Mono Blue Dreadnought against a competent opponent would lose?
Mono Blue Dreadnought is not less than 40% against anything.
Okay.
Like, Replenish is not less than 40% against anything.
I think it's less than 40 against Tide.
I think you think that it's less than 40% against Tide, and I think that you can make a very strong argument for that. And, like, the other thing is, like, I'm using 40% here as like a you go into the matchup, you know exactly what you're going to do, and you are capable of doing it, right? You have the tools at your disposal. Now, like, if you are playing Dreadnought and you cut all the Hydroblasts from your sideboard and you got paired against Goblins, like, then maybe you would be at, like, 35, right? But they still have to just, like, have it, and you have to not have it. It's just, like...
But you're also, like... How much is this factoring in the amount of Dreadnought hate that you should like expect going into this coming year?
Well, that's the question at hand, right? Which is just that, like, what does Dreadnought hate look like? How much percentage does it take away from the Dreadnought matchup? And does the Dreadnought player have agency to defeat this, right? So, like, does the Dreadnought player have agency to defeat Pyrostatic Pillar? It's like, well, Pyrostatic Pillar, trades for a Hydroblast and 2 damage, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it trades for a Hydroblast on the stack, and then, whatever. Everything trades for a Hydroblast on the stack. So, like, maybe it'll trade for a Hydroblast and 2 damage, and that's pretty good. And then if it trades for, a Hydroblast and 8 damage, that's great, right? A Hidden Gibbons, if it, like, stops your opponent from casting Impulse or AK for, like, a couple turns, but then they just like impulse it, or they just cast all their portents, right? Which portent rules already. Yep. Cast all their portents, and then they just go end step, impulse, pass the turn, dominate your Hidden Gibbons. And you're like, okay, I guess I Plowshare as my Hidden Gibbons, gain 4 life, right? And you're like, wow. Like, Lanny and Mike told me that Lanny, Mike, and David told me Hidden Gibbons was like the truth. And like, it just got dominated, right? And like,
I mean, it's the truth in the right deck.
Yeah.
Like, I think I got some Gibbons in my board. I don't know how many I'm going to run. So
right, because you have a lot of spells that have to get countered.
Yeah. So I'm running Breakfast at this event. Mainly just taking Artie's list from LobsterCon and changing the sideboard a little bit. I haven't set on exactly what I was doing on the sideboard, but I played it at the last meetup. It was really fun. Went
fun deck. And people don't know how it works, too.
Yeah. Well, really, I just want to play my Duresses that I got from the Duress event.
We talked about
the, like, foil
you played it in
ones.
Contamination. That was a horrible idea.
Yeah, I played it in Contamination and played against 3 black decks at the previous meetup.
Well, black is back.
But no, I think the Breakfast deck where Gibbons is good is like they need to answer your stuff on the board, or they need to race you. They need to do something, because like they can't just go draw go. They're not playing against a slower deck. Like, I will win. I will discard the stuff in their hand if they aren't trying to sort of race my combo.
Yeah.
So they're
like,
forced to crack the Gibbons.
Yeah, it's an excellent angle. Like, that's the thing, is like Terrageddon is a deck that already like has angles, but it also kind of has like this weird like mopey like not doing anything for 1,000 turns aspect to it. That Dreadnought is just indifferent to. Like, you know, Dreadnought will get out of Rishid Import range. It's obviously very indifferent to Armageddon. It's pretty indifferent to Weather Wayfarer. Like, you know, it's like Sylvan Library is only a card if the cards that you're going to draw out of your deck are like, you know, meaningful. Otherwise, it's just, you know, 10 portents stacked together. But yeah, so if you like go Hidden Gibbons and your next card is like Duress, or it's like a must counter card, or you go Duress Gibbons, or like whatever. Like, I like the idea of going Gibbons Argothian because it's just like, okay, well, I guess
well, then you at least replace the card, like it's just a 1-mana cantrip.
Right.
Nothing else.
Or you play Gibbons into Survival of the Fittest, right? So like that's pretty sick because like they're gonna lose to both cards.
All right, Xantid Swarm is probably the better card against Dreadnought in a lot of decks.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe I should be playing Xantid Swarm.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm trying to get a little bit of burn. Because I'm pulling out red cards from my board to make room for the Gibbons. So anti-red cards.
Yeah, I mean, Gibbons is so bad against burn. Like the deck only should run 8 instants that it's interested in casting.
Yeah,
I actually don't know if it comes in because it's really just Lightning Bolt and Incinerate. It's like unreal when you like say that out loud, but it's literally just a Lightning Bolt and Incinerate, right? So that's...
But like Lightning Bolt and Incinerates are what are killing my creatures.
No, you're right. You're right. That's interesting. We'll see what happens. We'll see if you play against burn. But I wanted to close the loop on agency and like being good and being better, and I just think it's crazy to me that you don't feel like the kind of mage that is going to win a tournament.
Oh, I mean, I feel like I'm going to... maybe it's that my goal is not necessarily to win the tournament. It's just to... Or rather, like, I recognize that there's just a lot of...
Premodern.
I just recognize that there's a good chance that I, like, face some unwinnable matchup, and maybe it's because I'm just...
You play
never
decks
playing
that
a
have
good deck.
Matchups,
Yeah, because I'm playing Lodestone Bauble in tournaments, and
No, I mean, that's the thing is like even, you know, in Burn's heyday, like getting paired up against like mono Silver Knight Worship or like Enchantress type nonsense, like you would just beat them. Like you would just beat them sometimes. And like you would beat them because like a lot of the decks that have like these like super landsliding matchups are not like they don't. Oh man, I feel like this is a epiphany, right? But if you have like a deck that has like a 90% matchup into something, it might be because your deck is fundamentally rigid, and it has like it's over-indexed on its ability to do a certain thing, which happens to crush like another deck, right? But it's also creates the same. It creates a.
So you're saying like survival decks being over-indexed on survival?
Oh yeah, 1,000%, right? Because survival decks crush mid-range, they crush tide control, right? And then they are just so bad against replenish. And you know, in the world where survival, like let's say survival was more oppressive, right? They're just so bad against like Curse Totem, and like, you know, they're like, I don't know, like they're bad against. They're bad sometimes against like Ray of Revelation and something else, or they're bad against Mystic Enforcer. You know, like they're sitting there, they have all these tools in their deck, and none of them have flying. And so like like Enchantress has like a huge gap in its game plan, in the form of like it kind of does this one thing, and it uses the worst permanent type to leverage it, like. Enchantments are like they don't block, you know, like
until the Obsolescence comes down. They don't block.
Exactly. They don't block. So like if your opponent just has Jackal Pup, you might just like might lose because you couldn't put Solitary. Like I don't know, people like I don't even know why Enchantress is supposed to be a bad matchup of Burn because they put Solitary Confinement in play. It's like, well, when are they going to do that? Like maybe it's turn 6. You know?
Yeah, they're dead already.
Yeah, I mean they'll win. They'll win if they have 2 Enchantresses and a Solitary. And hopefully Amiri's Guile to like make sure they really get it, right?
Yeah.
But like other than that, like I'll take those odds. Like I'll take like you putting like 8 mana of stuff into play you know, for you to win the game, like, you deserve it. If you have 8 mana on permanence play in a game of Magic the Gathering, you're probably going to win, you know, the game of Magic. Like, that's how Magic works. But yeah, like, if you look at, you know, Stasis and Elves, like, that's the same thing. It was like Stasis is just like super over-indexed on the card Stasis. And like anything that can be indifferent to Stasis becomes super bad. Like old school mono blue Dreadnought was the same thing. If you were indifferent to your opponent's ability to just like play a 12/12, and a lot of decks were like, well, I've got 10 removal spells in my deck. Like, why am I scared of that? And they had no reason to be. So yeah, I feel like this is like an axiom. Like Premodern is so good at illustrating this, and I actually think that's kind of why I'm I'm a non. I mean, you could ban Tide, like, whatever, but like I really love that, like that one aspect of Premodern is like you're just not entitled to having lands in play, and you're not entitled to anything. You're not entitled to having enchantments. You're not entitled to having creatures, battlefield, hand, everything. Everything is a relatively
not even basics. Like,
yeah, exactly. You just get in, or like, you know, you get Sphere of Resistance, you get Thermal
cards.
Yeah, like these are all things that like mean that like having a good deck means being robust, and it's unfortunate that like Dreadnought ended up being the most robust deck because, you know, like that's, you know, it's messed up. Dreadnought's a messed up deck.
I don't think it's. I mean, like, people are going to get pissed at any deck that's that robust. It doesn't matter if it's
exactly.
Dreadnought,
well, they're not.
whatever.
I mean, I don't know. Probably won't get pissed at Grotog because, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Going back to Modern, like Underworld Breach is a very different deck from Dreadnought, and people are going to get pissed off of that. Like, if there were some combo deck similar, if Storm were the best deck, like, people would get pissed off of that.
Yeah, combo decks are just always make people mad because like the other deck is Replenish. And anyways, my bottom line is like, you know, like when you build like the, you know, right, the problem with your Affinity Crusher is that it can't win anything else. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be like the case. Like, I think Terrageddon is an exciting deck in the current Premodern landscape because it has it can take on Replenish, it can take on Dreadnought, not like bulletproof, but it does so in such a way that it's kind of got different things going on. Like it does lose on those same merits as well. Like, you know, one of the, you know, it's just a deck full of air, and the only good creature in it is Terravor, and Terravor is like literally has asterisks on it, right? Like these things that make Terravor playable. So, anyways, you know, I think what you want me to play Tide. I love Tide. I think Tide's a great deck. I love a blue deck. You know, I love a deck that
doesn't run Portent though.
Like,
you could put some Portents in.
I'm just cutting lands. I'll just cut lands and put Portent in. But one of the things I didn't like about Sandblack Enchantress or Enchantress, and one of the things I don't like about Mono Blue Tide is that like these decks are sort of about what they're about. And this concept of like, oh, my opponent's just gonna like put Survival of the Fittest in play, and then I like can't beat that, and then that just like, you know, that's just like, well, there's a lot.
But that problem also exists for Dreadnought.
But I mean, it doesn't.
Because
you have. I mean, you're right that you'll lose to the Survival of the Fittest, but like you're out to defeat it is like just drawing a good hand and your opponent being like maybe slightly less than average, right? And like that's the thing is like, so the Tide combo in a sense, in one sense it does, like Tide combo has short game, right? It has turn 4 Tide, and that's awesome. Yep. Like turn 4 Tide Cypher. That being your short game is what makes Tide combo a very fun and interesting and compelling deck. Counterpoint, it does not have turn 2 Dreadnought Daze Foil, right?
Yep.
That kind of short game, Dreadnought is the only one who's capable of that. And like you know, same thing with the Enchantress deck, right? It's just like the Enchantress deck has no short game, and that's like that's something that it's not like exploitable in the way that you can exploit Dreadnought by like having like this beatdown deck with disenchants in it, right? Like it's like exploitable, and then like in the way that like both Panza is exploitable by Mono Blue Dreadnought, and also by extension, you know, maybe it's exploitable by Mono Blue Tide. Who knows? You had kind of cracked that matchup in the LobsterCon, and you felt pretty good about it. But
Dominate was great.
Oh yeah, Dominate rules. So and you cut Standstill from your deck, but but Dreadnought, Have you been to Bearded, by the way?
No,
Before?
never
Okay,
been.
cool. It's going to be exciting. Bearded's awesome space. Shout out Bearded. Yeah, you know, it's just like, I dislike decks where it's just like so evident how to beat them, and like, you know, replenish with Exalted Angels and, you know, Dreadnought and to some extent Burn, right? Because like the ways to beat Burn aren't really like the ways to beat Burn is by being Dreadnought. It's not by being Cobred Warmth. Like that's that's why I hate, like, even if on paper, right, Grotog is now 50% against Burn because you mulligan to chill. Like that's not a plan. Like it is, but it's not like a Magic player plan, right? It's like a Blackjack player plan. And like I just don't fuck with that. And like I think that you know, like we kind of discussed this in the Tide versus Grotog matchup, one that, you know, finally got one rep in where I lost to SWB, and like I'm not gonna assign a number to it, because I don't have a number, but the vibe thing is just like, well, I do know exactly what I want to do, which is like a good advantage, and I think I could get better at that. I could know that I should bring in my 2 meddling mages if I have them, or my deck might be structured worse than it should have been going into the Tide matchup. Like I gave up a good Tide matchup by maybe not even having Days, you know, like Days.
I think Days would be really good for
randomly great against Tide. They're trying to get to 5-6 mana. You know, I'm still learning and whatever, but
So we've got about 5 minutes until we get there.
yeah.
Two things I want. Well, one, I could talk about why I'm choosing breakfast.
Yeah.
And then also another thing
Well,
about
just give me
Sylvan
your
Library
prediction.
was just you take a lot of damage. So I see how that Grotog takes a lot of damage
Oh,
itself.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I see how much
Well, I have basic forest now, so I'm probably
Yeah. But still running 4 cities.
Yeah. Like the dream is to discard it to Mox Diamond, right? I just live for that. That's like the 2-card combo in the deck is Mox Diamond and City of Brass.
So yeah, one of the things I like about breakfast, I'm trying to figure out decks that can run 8 discard spells. So like Therapy, Duress,
yeah.
And can and aren't like and have some card advantage or selection or something like that. The problem with Contamination Control is like
No card advantage.
you have Skeletal Scrying, and like some versions run Tainted Pact. I was running 1 Pact and 1 Diabolic Intent, but it's like
No, all bad.
you're relying a lot on just luck
All bad
and
things, all bad
mulliganing
things,
to
yeah.
get your 2-card combo that you have 4 copies of, to really close out
It's
the
just
game.
Dreadnought without the cantrips. And
Yeah.
like
And like Mox Diamond just beats it, or like
yeah.
if you're an opponent,
Well,
on
just
black,
adds another card, yeah. Or yeah. Anyways, Contamination
like
is
Smother beats it.
Contamination is pretty bad, but yeah. So the Contamination is not the 8 discard deck you were looking for. Enter.
Well, I still really like it because I think it has game against like these mid-range decks. I think like the Port Wasteland thing can really disrupt a lot of people. But what I was surprised by playing Breakfast at this meetup was how resilient it is to various hate pieces.
Yep.
So it's running 4 Hermit plus the Breakfast combo.
Yep, which is Illusionist and Core.
Yes. Yep. The Nomad's Encore plus Hidden Givens is actually pretty great. Just like being able to block infinitely with the Nomad's Encore.
I'm trying to understand the deck that has like Battlefield and Instance, but I guess every Swords of Plowshares deck.
Well, I was playing against. This is what I thought was really crazy about. Like, I'll talk about 2 wins that I got. One was against Flippy, Blue-Eyed Flippy, playing with 2 meddling mages in play on Illusionist and.
You have Survival in your deck?
No.
No, so it's just the Damery's Call deck.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there's Worldly Tutors, but I don't really like the Worldly Tutors.
Yeah, card disadvantages.
But so 5 ways to get creatures in to tutor up creatures. But so there's 2 mages in play, one on Illusionist, one on Hermit Druid, and I had a Nomads and Hidden Gibbons in play, so my opponent couldn't attack.
Yeah.
Really well. So it just
You have
got me to a position where I could draw
4/5.
Yeah. And like I am a Cabal Therapy Duress deck, so I hand-sized Illusionist into my graveyard,
oh my God.
and was able to like get through the discard them out, and get that combo into play, and just win from there. And then how like the deck has creatures in play when you mill the whole deck, so you're going to like be able to therapy before you have to cast the reanimate.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. And then another game, I was playing against Dreadnought.
So like you're Angry Hermit, except for you have 4 therapy instead of 2 or 0 or 1.
Yes. Yeah. That sounds about
Naughty
right.
Duel. Yeah.
Well, no knots. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And I was another game I won because
Asterisk,
I was just able to like. I was against Dreadnought, so Ritz and I are still 1-1. We need to play our last match, but we called it after 2 games because the bar was closing.
Yeah.
But game 2 I won with. I actually had, and maybe this is like I need to figure out, kind of going back on what I was saying about like I need to just like goldfish the deck more to figure this out. But
you'll be goldfishing it against opponents in 30 minutes.
Yeah. I had the breakfast combo in play, but I wasn't really. I forgot what the exact scenario was, but I didn't feel like I was safe to like just go all. Oh, I just didn't have a reanimate card.
Yeah.
And if he countered my
Crows and Wreck,
I would die, and like I would get the therapies in, but it was like very all in, and I was still just attacking for 1 or 2 each turn, and he was going down on life. And then he kind of went for a Dreadnought, and I was just I had a Terravore in hand, and I was just like, okay, I'm just going to mill a bunch of therapies, get rid of the counter spells, and cast an 18/18 Terravore.
Yep.
So I do like that it has that angle. Oh, there's
That
Jeff.
angle rules. Yeah, everyone's here.
Nice.
Is the parking lot gonna be full? If so, that's wild. Because they have a parking lot, but no.
Okay.
Jeff should have just parked in the lot. That's what you should be doing.
All right, we're pulling into
we're
the
pulling into
Bearded
Bearded Dragon. We'll do some Spike Colony live on the floor type interviews where we just like grab people.
Just some deck decks or something?
No, I mean maybe, I don't know. I've got my phone, I guess, and this microphone situation could help for that. So those are all good things. I'm excited
we'll do a
for
recap
today.
on the ride back.
Yeah. This is the mini. This is like a mini lobster con too. It's like it's a good time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty stoked. I'm feeling good. Well, I wanted to talk about what Mike was feeling about LobsterCon. I'm here with Mike Harris, but instead, I'm here to talk about how much I think double sleeving is a gigantic waste of time.
No, it's not a waste of time at all because.
There we go.
But then all that dirt comes in the top of your sleeves and just messes up your cards.
Are you just playing outdoors again? Like, is it elementary school?
Well, here's the thing. I've already invested the time because all my cards are double sleeved. So
you can't. Yeah, you're you're pot committed.
How long would it take to unsleeve them?
The real question I wanted to ask you was, I've got a deck. I've got 4 Survival of the Fittest in my deck.
Okay.
Like you do. I'm sure you open up every deck file and just type in.
Yeah, that's kind of a
Survival.
Mike Harris tradition.
Right. And then there's been a few decks out there with 4 Survival and some number of Meddling Mage because they're the Treva colors, the Vamp colors.
Correct,
right?
yes. I played a deck like that before.
Traditional Feb. This includes Trevalurin. This includes maybe a very innovative take on Breakfast or Life. Who knows? Those could all.
Hey, how are you?
My question to you is,
how you doing, Jeremy?
what if we just played a deck that had 4 Survival of the Fittest and 4 Meddling Mage, and that's it?
Well, that's what Treva Feb was.
Like, why do we put a win con in when our win con is just like 2 Meddling Mages and a Sylvan Safekeeper? It's like no deck can beat that.
Do you think no deck can beat that?
What deck can beat that?
What deck can beat 4 Meddling Mages? Sly? Goblins? Like right off the bat?
All right, but in your deck you also have 4 Well Roots and 4 Wall Blossoms.
Correct.
So you board out
very good.
You board out the Meddling Mages against those decks, and then you just do some other thing. A little bit of one main deck Tempting Worm, one sideboard Tempting Worm for burn, For goblins?
Common tactic these days.
For goblins, I don't know. How do you beat? What happens in the goblins versus survival matchup? I don't actually know the matchup that well.
Well, it definitely depends on what kind of survival deck. Hey, how's it going? It definitely depends on what kind of survival deck we're talking.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. Your win con is meddling mages, and they are 2/2s. So
Well, that's my win con against any deck. Like, obviously, I would just change it, right? Because I'm a survival deck with 8 walls. So I assume that then I can just like have one shapeshifter, one trike, and one devourer or something.
okay,
Like that's like 3 deck slots, like nothing, right?
that's 3 deck slots. You know what that makes for though? A bad full English breakfast deck.
Yeah, but you just don't do that unless you're forced to. I'll just put it in the sideboard.
Well,
Well, yeah, I have my counterpoint to that, which is that I hate the breakfast combo because it's 1,000 mana. It's like, oh, I've got survival, 1 in a G. Next turn, G, discard creature, get squee. G, discard squee, get Volrath Shapeshifter. Next turn, 1 UU, Volrath Shapeshifter. G, discard squee, get Phyrexian Devourer.
there are
G,
ways
discard.
to cut down on that, right?
Don't Palinchron me.
There are cards like Unearth.
No. I don't want to hear any of this. So all I'm saying is that
you're also a survival deck, so you're already running many mana dorks.
No extra cards. Just Plan A is Meddling Mage. Plan B is whatever Meddling Mage doesn't defeat, which just sounds like Burning Goblins to me. You haven't named any non-red decks.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of like 4 Meddling Mages, 8 walls, and then I don't know, like an Exalted Angel. Or
How do you stop like a black deck?
a black deck?
Yeah, like
You're survival.
back
Don't
or-
survival of the fittest decks just like crush black decks? Don't I just like discard Squee to Bottomless Pit?
they do not crush black decks because black decks stop your win con very easily with discard.
What if my win con is just Mystic Enforcer? You're laughing, but
Well,
what if it
You
is?
just like play one Mystic
Well, that
Enforcer and
actually would be a good win con against the black deck. 6 rounds.
Alright, text your wife.
It's going to be a full day.
We'll text your wife if you make top 8. Are you gonna make top 8 today, Mike?
I'm hoping to.
What's your vibe when you go into a tournament? Are you just like I'm hoping to, or are you like
I'm
this is
hoping to
mine?
top 8. I don't care about winning.
Yeah.
I just want to top
Mox
8.
Diamond. Mox
But-
Diamond is the prize.
I know.
You didn't promise your wife to buy her a real diamond if you won the Mox Diamond?
Well, the thing
I
is,
did.
The thing is, it would be my only Mox Diamond, so that's kind of useless. So
That's
I'd
incorrect.
probably end up
1 is
selling
such
it.
a good number. I'm gonna. Well, you sell it to buy your wife a real diamond,
Right.
or kids' college fund. But 1 is a totally acceptable number of Mox Diamonds to have in your orbit.
I know.
It's Jacob, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jacob is currently failing to double sleeve his cards, which we
Yeah, I
Which we
gave
predicted
Mr.
at
Jake
the
Van
beginning of
Loon
this
here
recording.
his ride, and so he is kindly sleeving up with new sleeves the deck that I loaned him, and it's taking a while.
you got to use your thumb. You have to create a hermetic seal.
So the
hermetic
problem
seal.
is that the inner sleeve slips up.
Yeah. That is my issue.
So
They're perfect fit until you try and fit them into something else. Yeah,
Well-
that would be.
it's if you are you using the same brand inners as outers?
I don't even know because
Yeah.
I bought the inners so long ago.
Yeah. So you got to use same
No.
brand inners and outers. You got to
You
be
know what
like
it is?
Ultimate Guard, or
It's Dragon Shield.
Dragon Shield.
Yeah, because Dragon Shield are tighter.
Yeah,
And
Oh, this can't be right.
No.
right? Is this-
I began this
No, that
conversation
happens.
with
They'll puff up.
with double
They'll puff
sleeving
up.
is
See?
like not
and
a
then you just kind of do this.
horrible.
Okay.
Just kind of
Yeah.
roll your
Totally agree.
palm along it.
All right.
And then that crushes them down.
I thought I was.
So here's,
So my survival deck gets a 10 out of 10 from Mike Harris. Is that true?
that is not true. So here's the thing. You're trying to make a mid-range survival deck. I'm trying to make a fast combo survival deck.
Well, I'm the podcast host.
I know.
Sorry, do you-
But what I'm saying...
Are you co-opting my survival deck now, and you're just like put Unearth in it? What am I going to do next?
I think
Like,
your deck would be
tap my
better with
gemstone
Unearth.
mine and then, no, because then I have to play black.
So
Basic Forest is so good.
So you're talking a Treva deck. So what is this? A trade win survival deck? Like
Look, it
how
can
do
be.
you-
It can be trade win trade. Like what I want to do is when I draw survival, I want it to be. Survival is good enough to win in every shell that has survival.
Correct.
It's just the nature of the win. If it's elves, if it's Fev combo, if it's just putting multiple Drainage Tournament into play with Genesis, right? Like every survival deck has this sort of like, if I draw survival, I'm gonna win the game. And
right. If this is out long enough, I'm
yeah,
gonna
there's
win.
some texture, except for if I'm playing against Replenish, in which case it doesn't matter what I do. Like I just lose if they have it. So what I realized was I was like, okay, well, again, I see all this video footage of Bant survival decks putting Meddling Mages into play, and I was just like, that just wins most of the time. And Meddling Mage is a card that you want to draw.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. So a 4 Meddling Mage Bant survival deck.
Maybe three.
Well, it's-
and then the fourth one is like your Safekeeper or whatever to like complete the lock, right?
So that was the Fran Trevelurin deck?
Exactly, yeah. But the problem with the Franz Trevelurin deck is that it contained the card Allurin, which you just don't need.
So you're saying just cut Allurin and just be a mid-range win con.
just tell me what I need to do to win the game. Like tell me the 4 cards that will win most games if I tutor them up with survival. That might be Shapeshifter, Devourer, Trike. It might be
yes. I think that is. The
It might be
answer.
Tradewind. It might be Tradewind Drake. I don't know. Avalanche
So
Riders.
I
Obviously
tried.
not, but like
I tried a Tradewind Fev
one Tradewind
deck. Yeah, it only
Yeah.
had one Tradewind
Yeah.
because that's just such a different game plan from
Yeah.
Feb that they were in tension with each other.
Well, yeah, because you need 8 walls in here. Because I've got 8 walls in my deck. You only have 4 walls.
True. 8
And
walls
you don't
will
have-
make it a different deck.
Yeah, you don't have like
Maybe you go
random
squirrel.
garbage sitting around.
You know, maybe you do opposition squirrels.
No opposition. Why are we putting more 4 mana enchantments in our awesome deck? Right? Like when they could be
Just took one.
like a 4 mana creature will do the same thing. Like has anybody ever beat a Mystic Enforcer?
So have you?
I will counter my own things that survival decks don't get threshold. So unless you spend a lot of G to get threshold, right? But aside from that,
you're literally pitching creatures just to get threshold. It's like that's not a good plan. Have you ever heard the Ricochet rule of combo decks?
no.
Never mid-range.
Never mid-range? Well, that's the thing. It's like, you should be...
Come downstairs and pick up the printed copy so you can hand it off to the driver.
I have to grab my printed deck list.
All right,
But
go grab it.
mid-range sometimes is my counterpoint to that. All right,
right.
this has been...
I'll mull it over.
It's been 10 minutes with awesome guy Mike Harris and JVL in the background. Noted. Well, just look him up. It's great. Just look it up on YouTube. It'll be a fun ride.
Yeah, his
All right.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah. No, you can. I mean, we love Mark Rosewater. His Drive to Work stuff is awesome. Is what you were about to say, right?
No, I really liked his like 20 lessons or 25, whatever he did that for. It was either 20 or 25 for the 20th anniversary Magic or 25th anniversary. That was really good, I thought.
So the conclusion of the Bearded Dragon Winamox has happened, and the conclusion is yours truly did not win a Mox.
Yeah.
The Mox was won by Mike Harris. I was happy enough to get a pregame interview with him. I should have asked him what he thought his outlook was. Mike Harris is really good at winning pre-modern tournaments. He has won at Bearded at 2 different times, once with Mono Blue Dreadnought and once with HFEB, and he won this first Sacred Torch Showdown. I managed to be somewhere in the mix. I got 2nd place, and
You and Mike are becoming the
really bad at
new
winning.
biggest losers.
Yeah,
he got
first
second.
loser.
So we got second at Team Trios last week, and he got second at the Manhattan meetup.
The result was, it couldn't have gone to a better not Lanny, but it was definitely shattering because I don't know if you know the distance between Mox Diamond and Survival of the Fittest, but it's much larger than I would have been happy with. But actually the most fun part of the night is that we had a judge, and a lot of pre-modern players learned a lot about competitive REL procedure today, myself included. I probably almost talked myself into a DQ because my angle was like, Mike, let's just sell the cards and split the cash. But I can't say that out loud. And so it was like, not that, or it was like split $300 store credit.
Yeah.
And so I can't say that. And so I was like talking to the judge and I'm like, so Mike and I are just good friends. And then the judge was like, there are no future consideration or draft picks on the table. Like, you may split, you may decide what you want to do, you may convert Mox Diamond or Survival of the Fittest to store credit and split them as you see fit, or you can play Magic. So I had this conversation for about 5 minutes, and Mike was like, I kind of want to play so I can get one or the other card.
Well, he said that his wife is already mad,
Yeah,
so
he
being
was-
later
yeah.
is not going to be any worse.
And I was like, my wife is already mad, but she will be much more mad if I like 300. Anyways, my point is, I tried to collude and I was unsuccessful. You should probably ban me. A lot of good Magic was played and a little bit of bad Magic was played. And so sitting next to me in the
I played a
car
lot of bad Magic.
is Andy Levine, who has a notebook full of helpful corrections for how I should have navigated certain high-stakes
It's just
games.
like some notes of like big plays more than like corrections.
Huge plays.
Should I start?
Yeah,
Should I
set the
talk about
stage.
my failing in the tournament first?
Yeah,
or-
let's talk about breakfast because we need to close the loop. You
Yeah.
said you did not need
I
reps.
had the
on this.
anti-plot armor
Yeah.
here. I was talking about this on the ride up that like, yeah, you could just like figure out a deck pretty easy. Like, it's not too hard to figure out decks in this format. It's not that complicated. And I definitely lost 2 matches on not on slight misplays that if I'd played the deck more, I'd probably gone ahead.
You would have found the line.
Yeah, I would have found the line. In one of the matches was against Goblins, where my opponent got a sharpshooter in play, and I had is it absolute law? The
Yeah,
thing
you
that
had
gives all
absolute
creatures
law.
protection from
Yeah.
red. So I got that in early, and he got a Tormod's Crypt, and I need to find an answer to the Tormod's Crypt, which I have a bunch of answers to it before I can go off. But otherwise, I have like Hermits on the board and whatever. And I got into a position where I went to 9, cast an Uktabi Orangutan, but didn't have enough mana left over after that to win on the spot. So I had to pass the turn to him, and would have been able to win like mill in my like end of turn or mill in my upkeep and win from there. But my mistake was I had 1 mana left over. I could have activated the Hermit Druid during my turn to mill over the Cabal Therapy named Siege Gang, because I think that was... I needed to do the math, but like I think if I named Siege Gang there, he would have been like 1 or 2 points off
Yeah,
of just
cut out his outs.
Skirk Prospector and Goblin Sharpshooter pinging me to get lethal.
And this was Mono Red Goblins, which eventually made an appearance in the top 8, which is pretty
Yep.
excited for Mono Red Goblins.
Yeah, but Mono Red Goblin's not a lot of answers to Absolute Law.
That is true.
So that was one. The second one was against Stasis. I just played the matchup badly. I was like a little too impatient. Game 1, I had like a pretty early combo, and I knew his hand and I cleared it out, but I gave him 1 draw step to draw an answer,
What the fuck is this road?
and he drew a Chain of Vapor. And at that point, I'd already milled my whole deck in Crows and Wrecks, so I was just decked.
Yep.
And then game 2 was very interesting, where he had like 2 Tormod's Crypts in play, plus a Stasis. It's not looking really good. I was able to like clear out some defenses and then stick a City of Solitude and get rid of a Stasis at some point, and eventually just like won. But that was one I was not at all expecting to win. But then game 3 was similar. I was like a little too impatient. I think I could have won. Like I just went for it too early
Yeah.
when I didn't need to.
Patience is kind of like the name of the game for improving your play. And then on the other hand,
It's funny because when I play mono blue, I'm super patient.
Yeah.
Like I'm probably more patient than all the other mono blue players I see play.
you're like, I'll take another land drop.
Yeah.
Like, why not? Like, I love playing lands. I have a weird relationship with patience where my deck of choice doesn't have true inevitability.
Yeah, you need to know when to switch.
Yeah, it has inevitability in some matchups, but I actually do a fair amount of what I criticize Mike for, which is having like a feeling that I'll win in an end state, or like, you know, that I'll just be ahead, or my deck will deliver me the goods, rather than sort of evaluating where I'm at. Yeah, so I didn't like Plowshares of Wall of Roots for several turns, and as a result, my Karis killed me with not a lot of life left. That would have been 0. And that was just in game 2. In game 1, I didn't name Unearth with Meddling Mage. It could have been interesting. But the real shit show was my Actually, the real shit show was my quarterfinal match against Mono
That was
Blue
a
Tide,
long time.
where
Or a long match.
Andy did some consulting. He's the Mono Blue Tide sensei. I knew that Mono Tide was in the top 8. I get paired against it. Game 1.
Well, we played like 2 or 3 games beforehand.
We played 2 or 3 like.
I brought my Tide deck. You know,
Yeah.
play it, yeah.
And you were kind of like, well, these are the things, and this is like what matters. And I was like, interesting. I was like, I think I can do this, and I think I can do this. And some aspects of it I was right, some aspects of it I was wrong. And the result of that was an interesting one. I think I just I didn't optimize game 1. I don't know if game 1 was winnable, but I certainly didn't make every move with like the amount of precision that I needed. Because timing and everything, like, it's really difficult to play against Mono Blue Tide. And then in game 2 and 3, I just got bailed out by Armageddon. I had at least like the interesting decision of like, you know, maybe casting Armageddon into counter magic, but by the time I'd cast Armageddon in both game 2 and 3, I knew I was going to resolve it, and as a result win the game. And my deck doesn't have foil anymore, so I'm pretty happy that I resolved Armageddon against Blue Tide.
Yeah, so game 1, that was a close one. There was one time where you were trying to set up this Meddling Mage lock. So I think you had one on Chain or one on Keg, and trying to resolve the second one. You ended up drawing 2, but I think before that, your opponent was like tapping out a lot on like tapping low a little bit too much, I thought, to the point where he'd like impulse, factor fiction, counterspell, and then have 2 mana up after.
Yeah.
And so you had a few openings. There's one opening I think you could have baited with a Quirion Dryad. He had 2 mana up. Baited with a Quirion Dryad. If he counters it, it's fine. If he doesn't, if he counters it, you get to cast the Meddling Mage. If he doesn't counter it, then you at least have a Quirion Dryad, and maybe it means he has no counter spells. But I think there were some opportunities to bait there. I was really thrown off when you had the lock kind of set up with Chain and Keg.
And I didn't annul a Masticore.
And then your opponent drew a Masticore. Yeah.
But I also didn't annul it. Or wait, no, that was game,
you didn't.
That was game 1.
That was game 1.
So I didn't have annul. So I had I just cast
You-
Masticore into double Meddling Mage, and I had the Plowshares, but that meant he could take down 1.
Yeah. But he main phased the killing the Meddling Mage, which was a little, which was unnecessary.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I'll just Plowshares, then he'll do it, and then maybe I could resolve something spicy.
Or he just waits to your end step if you don't do anything.
Yeah, so my Grotog deck today, 18 lands, 4 Mox Diamond, 10 creatures, 4 counterspells, 3 dazes.
You gotta say which 18 lands.
Yeah, sure. Basic Forest, we talked about it actually, right?
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah, Basic Forest. Basic Forest is in.
And
Windswept
Windswept
Teeth is
Heath,
in. Basic Forest is the best. Basic Forest, getting reps in all day. Mystic Enforcer, getting reps in all day. The only way that I can defeat Survival Rock, which I did twice in dubious fashion.
Well, you also missed like 5. You know this. You missed like 5 library triggers in game.
Oh, yeah, I missed 1,000.
Like a billion.
Against, So I added Sylvan Library to my deck, but I did not add the part of my brain that remembers Sylvan Library triggers, so that was that. And Sylvan Library is a difficult card to play. Against Mono Blue Tide, you kind of want to pay the maximum, but you also kind of don't want to end up in like a 3-turn clock for no reason. And I was like kind of like looking for shuffle effects. And I was basically library locked. But I mean, the theme of the day was like, I was just like low on cards, and Grotog was just kind of betraying me. And like, I was really trying to like tinker with the deck and get it to a place where it wouldn't be low on cards. And I think that it can't be a card advantage deck at the end of the day. Like, it literally cannot be like an AK deck or a Fact or Fiction deck or a Skeletal Scrying deck. I think Sylvan Library was pretty free. That was awesome. But the rest of the looks for Grotog, in the years that I've been playing it, it's been more and more control, and I think I've explored the limits of what a control-y Grotog list can look like, and now I need to just like try to put the foils back in and try to have it just like either cheese opponents out or just give up on it completely because the format's too powerful now.
I had another note, I think, from game one where it seemed like, I think you got tied at once, but your game plan at some point was to get a Mystic Enforcer on the board and win with that. And it seems like throughout, at least me watching you in the corners, and we just talked about this too, it's like you seem reluctant to Mox Diamond.
Yeah.
Or like wait until later on.
I should examine that because I feel like I definitely try to pair Mox Diamond with Gush pretty aggressively, and then I miss opportunities to just play the card Mox Diamond as God intended and just discard one of the lands. And I have at times missed sequencing of like not holding a land, because if I draw Mox Diamond, that's like a green source and not a random island.
Right. There's one note I had, which was there was an opening where your opponent, I guess after your fights over Meddling Mage at some point, your opponent had 1 mana left untapped.
Yeah.
So game 1 only 4 spike as an option.
Right.
And you had enough mana.
Something?
You had mana to just go Gush and play a Mox Diamond.
Yeah.
Because I think you had already had Mage on Keg, or you might have had like Keg Chain.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what it was, but your Mox Diamonds were pretty safe. And really what you just needed to be doing there was get
more cards and just do it again next turn.
Yeah, get more cards, get the Mox Diamond out so you can, like, I forgot what it was. He had a tide at some point that he gave you back a land, like it didn't have the stifle for it. So, and you really just wanted to get Mystic Enforcer in play because at that point, you like
that was all I had.
That was all you had to win.
Like
he had
so much of
a mana
so
advantage.
Much of my stuff had been answered.
Yeah, but you had gotten rid of, like, game 1, your opponent played like all of his counter spells. You got rid of like a lot of his, a lot of stuff out of his deck. Both of you were at like 15 cards left at the end of the game.
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
I think that what went well, game 2, is what we were talking about on the ride up. I think we were talking about the ride up. No, we were talking about it at like in our play testing before. Was not doing the Chain of Vapor and
Powder Keg Mage.
You did Counterspell and Mana Leak to result, because all game 2 and game 3 is about getting the Armageddon down. I think, like, it's getting some pressure where they have to tap low or react to your pressure in some way, and then using that opening to get the Armageddon down.
Yeah.
So I think game 2 I think was when you did the that named Mana Leak and Counterspell, and game 3 your opponent
didn't draw action.
Yeah, he had like a bunch of islands, and what was good was he had an island and a Mistress Factory.
Actually, it's inverted. So game 3 was the Mana Leak and Counterspell, but he didn't even have Counterspell in his hand at the end of the game.
Right, you're right.
But game 2 was like Mega Slog that culminated in Armageddon, which the play was I attacked my Meddling Mage naming Keg into Island Quicksand, and then he used
this was another example where he tapped too low.
Yeah, because we like on my main phase, right? And so he tapped down to 2, and then I just like attacked into Island Quicksand. But there is some plausibility to the idea that he didn't know that I had Armageddon available. Yeah. Or he had nothing to fear, or maybe he had 4 spike and felt like he was close enough, because I went Gush, Mox Diamond, he annulled the Mox Diamond or something, and then
Right, but you had exactly enough mana,
had
and
exactly
he's
enough
tapped
mana.
out.
Yeah. So that was like super interesting, counting mana all day. Yeah, my match against Survival Rock was sort of unfortunate. It was defined by blunders that canceled each other out. In game one, I have my opponent in block, and I just kind of thought I was going to get fancy with my very last Sylvan Library.
So your lands in play, you were at 1 life. Your lands in play were Island, Forest, Plains, City of Brass.
Yeah.
So City of Brass couldn't do anything.
And my opponent had Plague Spitter and Genesis and Cabal Therapy in the graveyard. And
Just 1 Cabal Therapy
yeah.
and 2 Saprolings in play. Or
two Squirrel Tokens.
Squirrel tokens,
yeah. So I'm in 1. I've got Dryads holding out Squirrel Tokens. My opponent has... I need to get 1 more attack in. So all I have to do is counterspell the Plague Spitter, but instead I put Portent on top because I was like, I can Portent and then put Swords of Plowshares on top, and then I would beat some top deck that doesn't exist because my opponent would have spent all their mana doing whatever. And I thought about this in my head 4 times, and I still made the fancy play because I was just like, this covers like, a top deck, like something crazy that I have no knowledge of. And as a result, I tapped down. I didn't have UUU to go port and counterspell, so I put a Daze on top, and my opponent has exactly 6 mana, and he drew the land for the turn. So I just like punted a game that I had completely won. Andy had also informed me that my land sequencing and reluctance to cast Mox Diamond, as you mentioned earlier, was also something that gave away a life point. And so yeah, I was killed by a Plague Spitter in game 1, and then in game 2...
When your opponent was at 6 and you had a Mystic Enforcer.
Yeah, exactly.
I think your opponent there also could have... So he had a Masticore in play at some point that he just sacrificed, and I think you were forced to block it, so I think he should have forced the trade.
Yeah, he should have forced the trade because he had Forest in hand.
Yeah.
And then he just would have drawn deranged and then attack, trade, and then cast deranged next turn. That's actually a good point. That was game
Well, he would
one.
have he would have discarded the Forest because he had to keep it alive.
That's true.
So he would have hit the deranged later on. But.
That's true. That's a good point. That was game 1, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that actually was a more important blunder because I might have not
From
had
his part, you're saying?
Yeah, because I might have had nothing to say about that. I think. Yeah, I would have had nothing.
Yeah, you would have been. I mean, it would have been a great position for him. It was. He would have had 4 lands in play, no cards in hand. I don't know, therapy in the yard or 2.
Yeah, and deranged in event once he found the mana source, he'd have deranged.
We would have had a deranged in hand, and you would have had 2 cards in hand and not much on board.
Yeah. So I blew that Sylvan Library, and then the following game, my opponent made 2. It's been a long day, so my opponent made 2 mistakes in the turn cycle. One was that he tapped a Birds of Paradise that was available to block my 2 Mystic Enforcers, and he had piled the Birds of Paradise into the lands. So he had just kind of tapped it alongside his lands, basically having the game locked up, feeling like he had the game locked up. And I triggered my very last library, and I had Armageddon, and my opponent has a Withered Wretch in play, and I have no graveyard. And so I Armageddoned, and I didn't float mana for my Armageddon to not remind my opponent that he could do that. And my opponent said, activate survival. And then he said, Armageddon resolves. And then he said, I guess I'll float 2 mana. Well, he said, activate survival. He said, how many lands do you have in your graveyard? And I said, I have 7, and then I had the Armageddon itself. And then he said, I guess I'll float mana. And the judge had ruled that at that point, he had resolved the Armageddon. He had passed priority on the Armageddon, disallowing him from, going back. So, if we were allowed 1 take back, I would have taken back my Sylvan Library, and he would have taken back his float mana. So we were square at that point, and then I won game 3 with Mystic Enforcer.
So Mystic Enforcer did a lot of work.
Mystic Enforcer did a lot of work all day. I played against Junk. I played against Dead Guy Ale.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 2 other people playing Clerics.
Yeah.
So Mystic Enforcer is in the deck. You earned your jersey.
How many do you have in it?
I have 2.
Oh, wow.
I can't play more than 2 because I have, 18 lands.
Yeah.
It's so. I learned a lot. I'm actually Tilted off the moon. I don't really know how to feel because I think it's crazy to be playing a deck for years and years and years, and like this is the one deck where I'm sort of not allowed to make mistakes with. I can sort of write off mistakes with every other deck, but this is bringing back a lot of every mistake that I've made before, and like I'm kind of like I don't know why they happen. Like I don't know what to do to make them happen less. That's actually the hardest thing because I've punted some important matches and I've played well in important matches, but I've punted a few important matches in my day, and it's definitely tough to be on the journey, and I think also tough when you convince your wife to like let you spend the entire day in Jersey and essentially abandon her for the day.
But at the same time, I think there was a lot of like recognizing the Armageddon line in the tied matchup was very important for winning.
I don't think I would have found that unless you explicitly told me that I should Meddling Mage, Naming Mana Leak, and Counterspell. Like, I somewhere in my head I could have figured that out, but I don't think in the moment, in the moment of the game, like I would have been capable of that. And I think that's kind of a thing that you can teach yourself if you're devoted. 78 East Holland Tunnel is this one.
Yeah, left. Oh, I guess either's fine. Sorry, naming Meddling Mage.
Yeah, like that's like something that I think like David Rasco would be like, I'm gonna play both sides of the matchup and figure out what I need to name with Meddling Mage on what turn. Yeah. And I had added Meddling Mage back into the deck, which introduced a super weird angle because I had Pyroclasm in the sideboard, and
How do you feel on Meddling Mage overall in the day?
Meddling Mage is pretty good. It's important because it kind of gets. It's like your 5th through 8th counterspell.
Yeah.
Which I had underrated. My versions that played Call of the Herd or Nimble Mongoose instead of Meddling Mage was much more likely to have my opponent get to do something, resolve something important, and having it. And then of course there's always the possibility that naming Plowshares is amazing and will win you the game outright. And I had kind of underrated that because I had put Plowshares into the deck, and now that I'm at where I'm at, I'm kind of like, yeah, you can just cast all your Plowshares and then Meddling Mage naming Plowshares, and then you play Mystic Enforcer, and then they lose to Mystic Enforcer because they can't remove it. So these are like important things, and Meddling Mage should have never left, I think. And
yeah,
it goes hand in hand with the thing that I said, which is just that you need the deck to be more lean, more early game focused, and more like creating openings to like win the game quickly and stuff like that.
But yeah, like in some matchups, a Ruined Halo, I guess, whatever the card is like actually fine.
Yeah.
Like against Tide, it's a Ruined Halo, but it's the Ruined Halo that got you to resolve in Armageddon.
Right.
And like now it's no longer a Ruined Halo because once their quicksands and their factories are gone,
now it's free Orm's Chant for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's like, it was a great spot, but it's very weird because I found that I had trouble balancing how proactive and reactive the deck was, what kinds of decks I would play against where I'm like, oh, I want to hold up mana, I want to be aggressive, I'm going to Meddling Mage I want to Meddling Mage stuff against survival decks, right? So like one of the sort of obnoxious interactions is that after sideboard against survival, you pack your deck with disenchants. But if you draw Meddling Mage first, you have to name survival with Meddling Mage, and then you just start drawing disenchants.
That's what happened in your game 2, right?
Yeah, I mean,
finals. Do you want to go do a quick recap of the finals?
Yeah.
It's pretty quick.
So
2 games.
Yeah. So you tell it. You've got the memory.
Game 1,
I can actually recite. I can almost recite game 1. Game 1 is like sort of awesome. I actually can't because I forgot.
Game 1, he's on the play. He goes turn 2, Hermit. You swords it. Then he's able to get survival in play. you have a meddling mage and you're trying to figure out what to name with the meddling mage.
Yeah, Unearth or Shapeshifter. Harris has access to 4 mana, which is exactly what you need.
He has a birds and 3 lands in play.
Yeah, you need exactly 4 mana to execute the Unearth line, where you get Palinchron and then you Unearth to free up your mana to complete the breakfast combo. And I had to choose between Unearth or Shapeshifter, and Harris was under substantial life pressure at this point. He's at like 9, but all his lands deal damage to him, and he's facing like a 5/5 Dryad. Like my turn 2 Dryad turned into like a big boy. Oh, did I? No, I'm good.
So yeah, I think like the thing was betting on whether he had the Unearth in hand, because if he doesn't have the Unearth in hand...
I tried to get a live tell from him. I would just ask him, I was like, do you have Unearth in hand? And then he was like, I don't know. And one interesting angle was that he could have just unearthed Hermit Druid, but he doesn't want to do that because if he doesn't hold Unearth, then Hermit Druid combo gets owned by Counterspell.
Yeah.
And so I figured that out, and I was like, so Unearth is still in his range even though he didn't unearth Hermit Druid. And I was like, I thought that I could maybe make his life hard. I don't know the contents of his deck is part of the problem, so I don't know if he's got Slinger, Bone Shredder, what kind of like whatever, but I feel like I could make his life harder if I named Shapeshifter, because he could just like go and like Shapeshifter a Chroma, and maybe that exposes us to Sword Splashers, but it would also like win the battlefield.
Yeah.
And then at that point he can just go do his thing, like just pass the turn with an Achroma Shapeshifter in play. And for 4 mana you can almost do that if you have a land drop, with 5 mana going to his turn 4. So that was crazy. And then game 2, basically I get a turn, I'm on the play, I get a turn 2 Mage Naming Survival. Mike's hand is Survival, land, Wall of Roots. And so he has Wall of Roots, and then I don't Plowshares the Wall of Roots for 5 turns, and then he trades Cabal Therapies for counterspells, and then I have maybe interesting decisions of like letting Cabal Therapy resolve, but I kind of assumed that he was going to do something awesome, and then he just passed the turn. Gets up to 8 lands, casts a Chroma, I'm flooding out. We're both flooding out, but one player has an 8 mana 6/6 in their deck, and I boarded out my 4 mana chump blocker in this.
But yeah, I think
if I had Fire Ice in my deck, I could have iced the Achroma and won the game. It's unreal.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! Why did I cut all the good cards from Gat?
But we were I think there's one play that I noticed in that second match, which was you had a Portent.
Oh right, I was holding Swords of Plowshares and I portented. And I saw Swords of Plowshares and maybe
it was Swords of Plowshares, Counterspell, and Quirion Dryad, and you had no green source.
Oh, yeah.
So it was not great. And you already had 2 counterspells in hand. So you had Island.
Oh, that's a shuffle. Yeah, that's a shuffle.
Well, you also had a Gush. So you could have, like, dug through it. I think the swords, like, if you get the swords there...
It's so bad to cast Gush when you are destined to have 3 counterspells in your hand.
Right, but you're at the point where you could start casting 2 of them in a turn.
No, when I cast that Portent, my lands are like Island Plains, and that's it, right? I mean,
I think you might have had a Mox.
Could go either way. No, I didn't have a Mox because it was no
green.
Right,
because you had no green mana. Yeah.
No, that was interesting. That one I'm pretty sure was 100% shuffle, looking for the source or looking for more lands, because I'm pretty sure I was stuck on my land drop. Like I didn't make my 4th land drop.
Right, but Gush means you'll make your land drop.
Right, but then I'll pass the turn. I won't have counterspell up. Maybe I can. No,
you would have had counterspell. Yeah, So it would have been you cast the Portent, you have counterspell up. So I think you must have had 3 islands and a plains.
Okay, yeah. No, you're right. I remember sequencing this and trying to like figure out how to angle it. You
could draw the
other thing was
swords.
That if I cast the Gush, I would have. Like probably hand-sized if I don't find Mox Diamond or something proactive, and because I want to hold counterspells, I knew I didn't want to do anything proactive. And
but do you have some junk in your hand that you could have discarded?
Probably a Rare of Revelation if you look closely, but that's actually a little dicey because I at least had no green mana. But
right.
I could have.
But you also had a thing on swords.
I could have.
You had a mage on swords.
I had a mage on survival. Exactly. So I could have considered all the things that you're saying. And I just like took the conservative line of like trying to just get my mana together, and like I knew my Gush Like if I shuffled it and draw anything, right? Like I felt like drawing anything was really good there versus the possibility that I am like portent locked for, 1 or 2 turns, or I have to gush, then I'm like portent locked, mana locked, then I'm hand sized, and I'm behind on lands. And I felt like that would give Mike too big of a window to like do something, anything, but instead he did nothing.
Yeah.
And that
just
was
got
the
it.
most...
It just went therapy, chroma.
Yeah, that was like the most surprising sequence. I'm like, the other thing in my mind was I was like, I want a hard cast Gush here because I have so many counter spells in hand. Mm-hmm. And then I chickened out on hard casting Gush because I was like, what if Mike just has Swords to Plowshares? Like he's got more white sources in his deck. He's supporting his own meddling mages in his deck. And I was like, what if he just removes my meddling mage and then I'm cooked? But I'm not really cooked because I have 1,000 Ray of Revelation. So I think my threat assessment there was probably pretty bad. And I'm sure like looking on, you kind of like can sort of...
It's easier for me to tell.
Yeah, you can
often
see a lot that I
easier to see on
missed.
the... Yeah, when you're not in it.
But man, it's just so frustrating. Like I should be easier on myself because it's hard to play a perfect game. But I think that I have a lot of pressure. I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself for LobsterCon because I think that.
So you think you're going to play Gap?
I don't know.
You need a reveal.
What do you think? What do you think? I got second place in a 42-person tournament with GAT. My overall record was 6-1, 6-2-1.
What were your losses to besides Mike?
My losses were to Mike and Burn.
Okay, and that makes sense.
And Sonny was playing Burn.
Yeah,
and I took a game off him. My chill plan works.
I think the real problem with you for LobsterCon playing this is that you're not gonna. Same thing happened last LobsterCon. You went to time too often.
That is correct.
Like I think you need to figure out how to play quicker.
Yeah, and
because I think you
more accurately.
Yeah.
I need to play faster and better. That's like
because LobsterCon, you're in the top 8 probably, or you have a good shot. If
I never
one
go
of those
to time,
right?
Yeah, yeah. The last LobsterCon, if I didn't go to time, I'm in. Ironically, in LobsterCon 2023, if I didn't go to time, I'm probably out because I needed the draw. But I think that I could play a more like it's hard to not play a blue deck. It's Premodern.
Yeah.
Options.
I agree with that.
The options are the not blue options are difficult to reason for sweaty smart boys, and I don't know. I feel like I don't have like a clear view of myself. I can't tell. Like, first of all, at least I'm being honest about this. I don't think my pet deck is very good, but. Okay. I think
your pet deck is probably better than you think it is. Then
that's true, but like I don't think my pet deck is like. I don't think I'll win more matches. Like I think the thing.
What if we just played each other's pet decks at LobsterCon?
Yeah, that would be great. We'll do that for day one.
Yeah.
If we, I mean, I kind of don't like playing Tide, but not that I've tried. But I played Tide when I sideboard Dreadnought. But
borrow in the next meetup.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'll do that. I mean, it's kind of lame because. People hate getting tided, but they deserve it. They don't. They're not entitled to their lands. But I think that the thing that people do, which is fundamentally very likely to not be true, is they talk themselves into thinking that they will win more with their pet deck than with the best deck. And I just don't think that that's true. And I think that there's like a lot of factors, and I think that like you can have pet deck edge, and you can. You can be the best HFEB guy, you can be the best, GAT guy, but, at LobsterCon last year, effectively nobody was playing their pet deck. I mean, Javier Lugo...
I was playing my pet deck.
I forgot about you. So Javier Lugo on a sort of brewy take on Terrageddon, yourself on Tide Control, but then we're talking Burn, Replenish, Ponza, Dreadnought. Am I missing something?
A third Dreadnought. There's a blue-white, a blue-black, a mono-blue.
There was a blue-white Dreadnought at
I think so.
2024?
Yeah, it goes blue-white, blue-black, blue, not in this order, Tide, Burn, Replenish, Terrageddon, and Oath Panza.
Yeah, so these are a bunch of, like, the Tier 1 decks, right? And, like, Terrageddon was not considered to be Tier 1 going into the tournament, so it's kind of an emergent Tier 1 deck.
Well, and you didn't even have Tide as Tier 2.
That is correct. But that's because I have, like, I have a cop-out tier where I just say, I don't know. Like, probably. I mean, it's like, do I think Tide is better than... Like, after LobsterCon, do I think Tide is better than Black-White Control? Absolutely. Before LobsterCon, do I think Tide is better than Black-White Control? Probably. Probably better than Land still, you know? But maybe not. I don't know. I can't ask myself. You'd have to go listen to our own podcast.
Well, if you listen to your podcast... I remember this because I was listening to it when you were coming out with it. You were trying to figure out... You were trying to guess the top 8.
Yeah.
And you were like, I don't know, maybe Tide Control or Land Still, and then you went with Land Still over Tide Control.
Oh, plot armor. That was your helmet. That was your shield. All right, well, I got what I deserved. So you're in with your pet deck, Javi's in with her pet deck, but, like, listen, like, we're not talking about Tin Fins combo or, you know, Pattern Rector or Iggy Pop. I'm only naming combo decks.
These are pet decks that have a lot of game. Like, sorry, that's a bad way to explain it. They don't rely. They're not coin flips that you just need a mulligan into the right hand. Where a lot of, like, the combo decks.
Oh yeah. So let me rephrase. I think that you have 2 approaches available. You can decide that you are a any given Sunday person. You're in the any given Sunday bucket. And you have that attitude about yourself. And you're like, look, you know, like, I'm probably better than Lanny. He punts every match that he sweats, and he, like, always brings a bad deck. Like, if I'm Mike Harris, and I see my opponent in the finals is Lanny playing Grotog, you might be like, well, normally I would be, like, unfavored, but Lanny doesn't Swords to Plowshares the Wool of Roots. Or something similar like that.
I don't even know if that was the right play or not, but yeah.
I certainly don't. I think that was a good shuffle. But, you think
it was a good shuffle, but you think that you should have, like, gone down on the swords that you had in your hand.
I think that there was a cue. That was like a plausible thing, but I don't think I'm too upset with the outcome of game 2 because I think that I didn't have, like, a lot of agency in the matchup, and I think my sideboard plan wasn't good. Because I'm, like, trying to sideboard in Pyroclasm, but also stick a mage, and sideboard, like, also stick a mage, and also do Meddling Mage on Survival, and also bring in Disenchant. It's just like, I don't actually have a good solution for this. I think maybe I actually don't have a good solution for it. I don't know how to solve that problem for Grotog. So, but no, so, like, I think that, like, let's be in Mike Harris's shoes. Mike Harris is a very competent Dreadnought pilot. He's gotten decent results with Dreadnought. He understands the deck, you know, to some degree. HFEB, extremely difficult deck. A deck that Mike Harris himself and many in the HFEB cabal, like, routinely make mistakes in. Like, they probably feel like I do today. That, like, I'm like, how have I been playing this deck for years and I still, like, don't see, like, a line? And my deck doesn't have Survival of the Fittest or, like, any of these, like, super weird
is a hard card
interactions.
To play.
Well, I was kind of joking when I
No, I think it is a really hard card to play.
It's, like, hard, but it's not as difficult as Survival of the Fittest. I think it's, like, it's interesting. I mean, there's definitely dimension to it. But, you know, so I think that, like, if I was in his shoes and I had the option between the two, and in many ways I am in his shoes, and in that I do think that Grotog is better positioned in the HFAB, I think. Like, I feel like, you know, some of the top decks can give HFAB a difficult time, unless HFAB is secretly, like, great now that people
he beat Burn.
aren't
He
playing
beat Sunny.
red decks. Yeah, he has a plan.
Which is, like, that's supposed to be the bad matchup.
That's true. I mean, maybe Sunny trimmed down a price progress. He had threatens in his sideboard, you know?
No, you got a price progress.
Pause, quick pause. There you go. That's the thing. That's the pre-modcast for you. I'm sure you hear all about Mike Harris's Winamox win. Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, because I was just saying, Mike, you should just play Dreadnought at LobsterCon. And it was like, he's obviously just between Dreadnought and Survival and HFAB. And
what did he play last year?
He played Premodern.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Yeah, that's a good one. And so, so he, obviously he should maximize on the level, the things that he wants to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we were like a Lanny, Mike, Harris amalgam that was like wanted to win, but was like an Trev master, and plus he's got like alter sleeves and like so much like sick stuff like that. It's just so hard to not play Dreadnought, and it's crazy because Dreadnought has a lot less edge because people are doing anti-Dreadnought stuff, and so it's just like I don't know, like I don't know how to balance, because I am not going to assign equity. It's because I think it's all emotion, and my emotion is. I think I probably win more LobsterCons with Dreadnought, and I'm probably, in the LobsterCons that I don't win, I'm trying to decide how angry at myself I'm going to be. Like, that's my motivating factor. It's just like, well, I can't play a perfect game with Grotog, so, like, this was like low stakes, man. We just drove to Jersey. It was just an hour and a half. LobsterCon's a 4-hour drive. There's an Airbnb involved. Like, I put a ton of pressure on myself.
Multiple days, you have a lot of people staying at the
Airbnb.
Yeah,
I put a lot of pressure on myself. I'm all about having a good time, and that's, after. But at the tables, I want to give it my best, and I am just like, okay, well, I'm amongst the people who are capable of winning a LobsterCon with Fire Exchange Dreadnought deck, so I should probably do that. But I think that there's a mild like next leveling of just like, well, I'm even if I'm not the best Grotog pilot that I can be, I still probably do pretty well with the deck. But
clearly you got second.
but like you said, I could go to time. I think I would go to time with both decks. The only deck I wouldn't go to time with is Oath Bonza, which is a dark horse selection for me. Burn would be a very dark horse.
Yeah.
Burn is betting that people brought their Dreadnought hate.
So the well, I mean, you could do like kind of. I don't know what Sonny's matchups were, but he had Threatens in the board. He had Earthquake. He had some other. I
think you would absolutely play Earthquake. You wouldn't play Anarchy, and you would not play Threaten, and you would just play 6 Blasts and 4 Shatters.
Okay.
Or no, you would play 5 Blasts and 5 Shatters. So the sideboard is 5 Blast, 5 Shatter, 5 Blast, 5 Shatter, 3 Earthquake, 2 Dealer's Choice. Just not a lot.
But anyway, I think like my aversion historically for like playing the best deck is that I just don't play enough Magic.
Yeah.
Okay. This is my thought for the Modern event last weekend.
Yes.
Was like, I'm not playing as much Modern as potentially anyone else that's playing this. I played in literally one like weekly event before it. So
we give you infinite crap for it, but you don't deserve it.
What? Yeah.
You're not a contemporary Magic player. No. You own an entire Premodern collection.
But I think my aversion to playing Breach in this case is the clear best deck, and I think that as like the analog to Dreadnought here.
What the fuck is this? How did I end up in this lane? Sorry to the homies.
What is this lane?
Yeah, I like ended up in like the craziest lane that's ever existed. It was like my thing was telling me to take a right, but not.
Oh, it's just like the last exit.
No, it's after I get to the tunnel. Yeah.
So okay, I had this thought going into LobsterCon this year was like I started playing Premodern last year right before LobsterCon signups, and I was like, oh, I'll just sign up for LobsterCon. Like I played in like one event beforehand. I was like, I might as well sign up for this because like worst case, even if I don't go, like it's money to charity. I don't care if I lose that money.
Yeah.
And I was talking to people about like decks to play. I was saying I want to play something. Like I want to play something weird because I don't know the format as well as other people. I won't know how to play the best deck as well as other people that know the format better and know the deck. Yeah, that was my position last year, as people that know the format or know the deck better. So in order for me to get some edge, I need to play a deck that like people are less familiar with. And maybe it's a lower win percentage overall, but I'll catch up with
just the classic pet deck brewer deck advantage. Like
what I'm saying is that that's the argument for people with their pet decks. Is like
they'll know it better than their opponent.
Right.
Yeah.
In this modern event, everyone's going to know Breach better than I know Breach.
Yep.
So they're not going to know the Blue-White Miracles matchup that well, and I ended up playing Blue-White Miracles, which has game it had game against all of the decks, I think. But it puts me in this position where, like, the format knowledge, I don't get that. I don't lose that format knowledge disadvantage that I would with Breach. So that's probably some argument, or just like, I don't know, like if you know that you're not the best player, then you just know like a better player is going to do better. Like you're not going to be the one with Dreadnought that does.
You're not going to be standing at the top.
I'm not saying this is a good argument. I'm saying that this is like a thought process.
That is the flip side of the coin, which is that, like, you know, if you assess your own ability or your own outlook to be one, realistic, and also small, then it is totally accurate to say, like, I am not likely to be the one standing at the top at the end of this. But I don't want to speak ill on Mike Coyle, but Mike Coyle's a CDH guy and like a legacy guy, and like is like there for the hangs, and he got second place. He's playing Blue-Black Dreadnought.
Yeah.
Like you are more likely to be Mike Coyle than Javi Lugo. I mean, maybe not.
Well, I think that there's also just this. We were disagreeing a bit on this earlier, but like there's so many different decks in the format that, like, you're playing 9 rounds before top 8 or 8 rounds or whatever. Like, you could just not run it. You and the other person in the top 8 could have completely different matchups that you end up playing against. So I think that there is just like a lot of luck in getting to the top 8, just matchups.
And weird stuff will happen. Like last year's LobsterCon had like 3 Stasis players, all like X1. I
didn't play against the Terravore deck. I don't think all LobsterCon.
Oh yeah, but LobsterCon last year was less Terrageddon, more Oath Ponza.
I'm saying I didn't play a Terravore deck at all.
Yeah,
I didn't play against Oath Ponza or Terrageddon.
Right. But now that the pendulum is just more Terrageddon, less Oath Ponza, so never mind.
Well, can I ask a question here?
Yeah. We've got Rich over here.
Yeah, sorry.
Let me give you the mic.
Jumping in.
Yeah, no, jump in. Rich is in the back. He's coming to LobsterCon.
I am coming to LobsterCon. I'm excited. So what you guys are basically saying is that
you told me to take a left. Oh my god.
If you feel like you're going to LobsterCon, but you can't get as many reps as you'd like to get, you shouldn't play the
best deck in the format.
Best deck because
somebody else
won't be
you. Yeah.
But couldn't you just say that, like, if the deck has more raw power than any other deck,
that's giving you the best chance. And also, like, I don't know how hard Dreadnought is to play because I haven't played it seriously, but I mean, maybe it's just like,
get some wins with
pretty easy to play. I don't know.
So, I mean, I think I agree with, like, what I was trying to say is that that's the thought process for people that pick their pet decks. It's not necessarily the right thought process.
Right.
Like, it could be completely wrong. But, like, I think that the argument I'm trying to make is, like, you should play, like, maybe if you're just not good at playing blue decks or whatever, then, like, don't play Dreadnought, I guess. But it is... there's so much, like, variance in the not variance necessarily in the game, but, like, the format's really wide. You might just not run into the bad matchups. You might run into all the bad matchups. Like, you gotta get, like, the matchup spread is so like, there's not gonna be a deck with 30% meta share at the event.
That's correct, but that I don't think that implies that. That's like a weird. What does that make you conclude?
Logic?
What does that make you conclude? Oh my god, I hate Manhattan. What is the street that I'm on? It's just not on the map.
It's that you don't need if your concern is, like, these other Dreadnought players are going to be better, or they're going to, like, you're going to run into this mirror match and they're going to know how to do it better. Yeah, it's really more the mirror match.
Yeah.
And you're worried about that at the top tables, like, Yeah, I was saying I didn't run into a Terravore deck last LobsterCon, I don't think. So you just might not run into it.
I just feel like, so for me, personally, I've been playing Tide, and I really like it. I'm a blue player, but 6 rounds of it today was just like grueling.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of long games, and I feel like if I played Dreadnought, the skills might be transferable enough.
And you have the benefit of some short games.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yes. For something like LobsterCon.
Yeah, my LobsterCon was very long last year. I played a lot of long rounds.
And you didn't have Andy Levine buying you dinner on like a down round. Like I drew into the finals, I could have gotten myself dinner, but you set it up, so you're kind of the hero there.
Well, that place was so slow to get food.
Yeah,
we might have run out, but no, it was fine.
But so okay, I think this is interesting. It's weird that we're discussing it because I think that the overwhelming consensus in all of the more competitive solve dish formats of Magic the Gathering are that you should like just sort of play the best deck and do the best at it that you can to maximize your likelihood of a good outcome, because you will have a baseline win percentage that is higher than other things, and like trying to get lucky cheesing your opponent doesn't work when the competition is particularly tough. So the bottom line is, do you think that your opponents at LobsterCon will be tough? Because there are plenty of people who won't be able to like figure out on the fly. Like, because here's the thing about the pet decks, right? If you are up against Simon Nielsen and you just like play a card that he's like not aware of in the format, or you play Synergy that he's not aware of in the format, one, he's just going to be aware. Like people are out there, they listen to Spike Colony podcast, they're well studied in all of the possible archetypes and whatever. But two, the people who aren't can just be good and can figure out how to beat you, or they might just be playing a deck that's like indifferent to like the thing that you're doing, like literally just the Indiana Jones thing where it's just like what, and he just shoots you with a gun, and he's just like, yeah, Dreadnought, turn 2, Days backup, like nice brew, let's go to sideboard, and you just hope you draw Xanadu Swarm. And so like I think that a lot of like that's how people, when you set out to say I'm gonna play not the best deck, the burden of saying why you think that you'll win more matches is much higher than saying like whatever. And that's my conflict, right? Because I just know that I have like a great win rate with Grotog, and honestly that's the bone I have to pick, because I think people have great win rates, but like that's not showing the whole picture. Like of course you have a great win rate, it's kind of like all you do, and then you're not playing you're not playing a huge amount of high pressure, high stakes matchups, right, where you're like first prize is Mox Diamond, second prize is survival fittest. Like you're not playing that match every day. Like I want to be 65% in Mox Diamond matches. I don't care about being 80% in Premodern matches. It's an accomplishment, but like that this is what I think, that being competitive and being sweaty, like this is what you aspire to. And if you aspire to that, you probably should take a long look in the mirror about like if your pet deck is capable of giving that to you.
Yeah, I think also so many people, like there is card availability, there's other considerations like that. I think what you were saying is that like in modern, for example, everyone should be playing Breach.
I mean, I don't know if Breach is at that tier, but it sounds like it is. So I assume so. Yes. I mean, like, and anyone who's serious about winning, it sounds like that's what they should be doing.
There was like an RC a little while ago where I think it was 18 of the top 20 decks.
Yeah. I mean, it's at least interesting if like you were capable of brewing an anti-breach deck, but if you're 18 of 20 in the top 20, it sounds like there is no anti-breach, and as a result,
But I think what I'm saying is that it everyone knew this going into whatever these events were, and it'd still only be like 33% maybe of the field
showed up with it. Showed
up with it. Well, and part of that's like people don't like it might be
Card
card
availability,
availability
yeah.
or whatever.
Vibes.
Vibes. But just like I think it's even more so in Premodern, where people are like
So vibes.
not going to play the best, like or people are going to play whatever they want.
Well,
so
that
like
means-
over-indexing on the.
That means every single person who was like 33%, but then 90% of the winners, right? They got super paid. And like, if Dreadnought is in that place, you want to be the one getting paid. Like, you want to be the one hoisting the trophy.
My gut is telling me that, like, it's pre-modern. People are going to play their pet decks, and they're going to feel like...
And the only fear is if their pet deck is Grotog, which has like a pretty good Dreadnought matchup, right?
Well, and...
We're tied.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
like,
yeah.
I know I'll never be like as good at Dreadnought as like Dave Kaplan or something. But
Yeah.
like, I feel like it's the Indiana Jones thing.
Yep.
I really feel like that's the perfect metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't take a knife to a gunfight. Don't take a sword to a gunfight. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. You probably should be playing Dreadnought. It's hard to answer.
Yeah, you're allowed to say that the reason you're not playing Dreadnought is vibes, and you like love HFEB, and you got altar sleeves, and like you wanna Mox Diamond with it, so it's kind of blessed now. Like I would not begrudge anybody from playing their pet deck. I would never begrudge that, but I take issue just with people's added their rose-colored glasses with their
That their deck
pet
is good when it's not.
When their deck, if it's just that their deck is better than it is, right? Because LobsterCon's a unique tournament. It's gonna be a new environment, and even if you succeed in, one environment, the next one isn't one. So it's an interesting caveat, counterpoint to this is that in semi-competitive play, my online play, I went 4-2 twice in Dreadnought. I did not go X and 1 in a 6-round sample, and I lost a mirror, and so results-wise. In semi-competitive, competitive-ish context, like Dreadnought and Grotog, perform relatively similar to each other. And right now, the only thing that I've done an X1 over a 6-match, league sample is Oathponza, and that's like kind of a weird dark horse, and it'll take a lot of the mental tax out of myself. Like it's easy to misplay with that deck, but not as easy to misplay with that deck as compared to. Portent decks. But that is a Sylvan Library deck, so you're portenting it every turn.
But yeah, also, Rich, I agree with what you were saying on like SWB did not want to play a blue deck because he knew it would take 8 rounds and he would be tired and be making bad decisions. I think that's a real thing.
He's also very aware of his limits.
Yeah.
And he knows for a fact that he'll be just gassed, and like, if he wants there to be a run, then it's unlikely, because I think for him, I think there's other stuff going on, like headaches setting in or that kind of stuff, which is just
right.
like you need time to hydrate, that kind of thing, and that whole stuff. But yeah,
I think if I had a pet deck that I like knew really well, like let's say I was like the Goblins guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And that I would just bring that to LobsterCon. But because I'm on the fence, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just gonna take the gun.
You have no. That's actually a good one, because you don't have this problem that I have, right? Where you just don't have random Grotog edge or random HFEB edge or random blue-white flippy edge. Shout out to Brad making an awesome run today with blue-white flippy, a deck that is top 8ing randomly and always surprises.
I don't know. It has all the parts to like beat a lot of decks.
Yeah.
It just needs to draw them in the right order.
And it spends mana on all its spells.
Yeah.
But this has been an excellent drive, Andy.
You got some more time with Rich too.
Yeah, I do. I know. Rich will be in the hot seat next. He's gonna be the big interview talker.
Also, April 12th, I think I'm going to do vintage. I was telling you that Vintage Cube if you're interested.
Vintage Cube, okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Vintage Cube at my place. I mean, this was a fun day.
It was a really fun day. I'm dejected, but I had a great time.
Think about casting Mox Diamond.
Yeah, no, you're right. Should I? Well, so what do you think? Should I just like play 100 matches of Grotog versus X for like the next month, or should I?
I'll be hosting
freaking-
probably every Sunday before LobsterCon. I'll probably do
Yeah,
do
Sundays
something.
Sundays might be tough. I literally just blasted off my last good Sunday
Yeah.
on this. Come on,
Well, we'll figure out
survival
wherever you
fitness.
could pull over.
I was like, I don't understand, like, oh yeah, because you're like one behind. Sorry.
Yeah, that's
Anyways, yeah, I'm just gonna be like,
you want to take a phone?
hey babe, I brought home Survival of the Fittest and not Mox Diamond. What's the difference? Just like $350. Oh. So you made less than minimum wage today? Yeah, but
I'll
anyways,
see y'all later.
but
See ya.
the hangs were irreplaceable.
Good hangs,
Take care, Andy, and I'll see you when I see you.
Yeah.
And thanks for this was an amazing time. So love it.
All right.
Just clip that to your lapel. Congestion zone on the route? Are you going to put me back into Manhattan?
Is that right? Does it work? Yeah.
No.
It's my lapel.
No, it's putting in the... Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good. I mean, try to point it a little bit.
Sure.
Whatever. But it's fine. So, you played Tide this tournament. You have all the cards. You didn't borrow it from Andy or anything like that.
No, I have all the cards, yeah.
And, and you had a semi-horrible time.
Yeah, I went 2-0, and first match was against Psychotog. It was pretty easy. Actually, the judge came by and was like, after I stifled a Tide trigger, he was like, I don't think it works like that. And I was like, dude, I promise it works like that. And even my opponent was like, no, it works like that. The Tide goes to the graveyard. Anyway, but so that was good. And then I beat Enchantress, which I was really proud of because
That's an interesting matchup.
yeah,
Enchantress players hate having their lands gone, but they also have an extremely threatening permanent, which that if it resolves has the potential to take over the game.
yeah, I think he overcommitted
Yeah.
a little bit.
And you have no Nevin Rolls disc.
No.
Yeah, no,
No,
of course.
I think it's too slow.
Of course horrible, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, yeah, I think he just overcommitted, and I just, like, got him with a keg really bad. Took out a bunch of Enchantresses like that, and then he multiplied game 2, and that was that. And then, yeah, then I just, like, got stomped by Terraget and got draws.
Targaryen's quite decent against Tide Control.
I would say, like, my biggest, like, capital B blunder was I was playing against Burn, and it was game 1, so I still had my Factor Fictions in, and I was at 6, and I tapped out to play Factor Fiction EOT,
Oh, yeah.
being like, you know,
What's the worst that could happen?
I didn't even think about it.
Oh, you just did
I
it
was
'cause
just
it
like
their
neuron
instinct.
activation.
Yeah, yeah.
Play draw spell EOT.
Yeah.
Like this
Oops.
what deck does. And then it just blasts me for 6. I
Yeah.
was like, well, I deserved that. Like, do I think I would have won that game anyway? Probably not. Like I was
Perhaps
at 6
not, yeah.
against Burn, but you know, that sucked.
You certainly didn't help your case, yeah.
Yeah, and then I locked him out with chill game 2, and then game 3 I had him under a chill lock.
And he drew the Fire Blast.
And he drew the Fire Blast with 2 lands. It was like his only out with 0 cards in hand.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? That's what Burn does.
That's
Like,
the angle.
That's
I mean,
that. You know, I can't be mad about that. I've done that plenty of times.
That's how Burn does it. It's an interesting one because the topic of blasts versus chill has been going back and forth quite a bit, and I think
In Tide, it's chill 100%.
yeah.
But
So I
this
think
is
it's
'cause
interesting.
synergistic.
So I got like my face blasted off playing Burn against Tide,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, that's interesting because I brought 6 blasts. My opponent also brought at least 6 blasts, and their blasts prevailed. But yeah, I mean, I trust Andy. I don't play Tide Control, and I trust you as well. Being actual pilots of the deck, we've played matches where you used to be the Gobbo King, and
Yes.
so
Yeah.
are you just breath of fresh air? You don't like goblins? It's just like
It was like, I think I would like 3-1 meetups
Yeah.
and be unsatisfied.
You're
'cause
like,
my
I want a
games were
taste
short.
of yeah. Okay,
And like, I think ultimately the play pattern of goblins does not get my pre-modern jollies off because it's too similar to modern Magic.
right. There's nothing too like...
Like, I can just play mice on Arena.
Yeah, there's nothing too interesting about it. Okay, I like that.
Yeah. So I switched to Tide, and I switched to Stasis, and then I realized Tide was just better Stasis, so I switched to that. But
yeah. Stasis is a exciting deck right now. I really like that Stasis gets to play all the good spells, and but yeah, you'll probably go to Time and. The Dreadnought matchup, like, it can be good if whatever, you can make the Dreadnought matchup good, but it will also be annoying. So, like, I don't like matchups that are, like, good but close, like, you can make them good, but they'll end up being close. That's actually kind of Grotog versus Dreadnought. Grotog just, like, loses to Dreadnought sometimes. Mm-hmm. I've done it multiple times. It's embarrassing. And, freaking Dreadnought. But, so your vibe, you're at this very moment, so does Replenish, Terrageddon, or a survival deck interest you as alternatives to Dreadnought? Because all that I listed are tier 1 decks that have reasonable plans against Dreadnought.
I absolutely am not skilled enough, or cannot become skilled enough in the amount of time till we have to LobsterCon to pick up a survival deck.
Okay.
I just don't want to do that. And would you say Replenish? I've never picked it up. I could try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could proxy the deck.
Time is short,
but it's getting a little late. Interesting that you said the Stasis thing. I think the time thing is a big deal. Because when I was 2-2, my last match was against Stasis, or my next match was against Stasis. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I've played this deck. Like, I know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
Cleaned up game 1. And then game 2, it just, like... I probably just should have conceded earlier when he had the lock, but I thought I could just run him out of mana, so he had to stack the Stasis. And he, after the game, said that was the right move. But anyway, we went to time, and it, like, was not close. We, like, didn't even start game 3.
Yeah.
And I just, like, I can't take that kind of...
You don't want to, yeah. I mean, the problem is the Dreadnought Mirror is a time eater.
Yeah.
So you can play 3 Brain Freeze in your sideboard, but that's kind of bad. Because, like, that sideboard space that you're almost just using for the mirror, and, like, Dominate is almost as good as Brain Freeze in the mirror. Like, so you kind of need a Sculpt a Mirror plan that you're very happy with, and Brain Freeze is a good one to, like, resolve matches in time, but for the most part, it's, like, really hard to resolve a Dreadnought Mirror in time. And that is one huge reason, Andy's saying, like, hey, you go to time. Like, oh, I know I go to time. Like, I go to time, like, thinking, I think I'm not the fastest thinker, but I'm not like a sit there and do nothing. I'm unfocused. Like, sometimes when I'm shuffling, my thoughts will wander.
Sure.
I mean, the thing that was hilarious was just, like, literally we had, like, 6 guys today all thinking about how mad their wives are at them. Like, a bunch of dudes.
Who says Magic players can't get laid?
A bunch of dudes, some of them with multiple kids, all just being like, damn, I thought, like, I accidentally top 8'd this event. She's not gonna enjoy hearing that. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, dude, why, like, what have I done? Just like so, like, dejected because of that, If only I was, like, 20 again, just play Magic.
Yeah.
That's all I do.
Yeah, that was not really a consideration when I was PTQ grinding in high school.
Yeah.
But I also couldn't afford the cards I wanted. So,
yeah, I mean, that's what's so rude about, Magic as a thing that, like, to have as a hobby. It's like the time that you have the money and resources to really enjoy it, you don't have the time. But that's, whatever, but that was, like, the thing. But, so going to time, definitely a consideration. Yep. Decks that don't go to time, you can go to time with a lot of the decks that I mentioned. You can go to time with Replenish. I played a 3-hour match against Rich Shea.
Sure.
Playing Dreadnought versus Replenish was an untimed match, and so, like, that, it took 3 hours. And, like, I don't know, I played slow sometimes, but, like, I was still, like, making plays every turn, like, not spending more than, like, it's not like I was spending, like, a minute in the tank every turn. It's just, I had to tank every turn because every turn, like, something crazy happened and something changed, and now I have to, like, know what spells, and, like, my draw step changed everything, or Rich did something. And then at the same time, you're trying to, like, pick up on tells and trying to like read your opponent's hand and like trying to like be like figure out what they could have in their hand and what they're playing or whatever. And then so yeah, it's just kind of like it's hard. Premodern is such a grindy format, and there's so many matchups that just like have that potential to go to time. Like you can go to time playing Burn sometimes. So
and with Stasis, like you said, I didn't feel like either of us were playing particularly slow.
Exactly, yeah.
We were just, drawing lands and playing them, and in these blue matchups, specifically these blue matchups, where it always feels like the guy who tries to attack first, proverbially.
Right.
Loses.
You're basically saying the optimal strategy is to go to time, because trying to wrap the matchup is competitively disadvantageous.
I mean, if I was like a bad person, or like somebody had a gun to my head and was like, we're gonna kill you if you don't top 8 LobsterCon, I would maybe like play Tide, try to win the first game, and then just try to draw. I mean, that's obviously a scummy move. But sometimes it feels
don't solve for the angle, but but also if you quote unquote try to draw, like stop your opponent from winning is a good way to win a game of Magic. You in the Dreadnought mirror, you board out some number of Dreadnoughts. That's something that you do, and that's not going to end a game. Like Mistress Factory getting in there, say you're playing the 75 card mirror, you're like, boom, Mistress Factory, attack, I gotta dominate. Oh, cool, well, I'll dominate it back.
Right.
It's like we both boarded out all our Dreadnoughts. We both have nothing. We're both gonna get milled. That's like a huge reason not to play Dreadnought for sure, because that just makes me hate everything. Like I'd rather go to time with a Grotard versus Dreadnought, and that's like one killer thing. It's just like the Dreadnought mirror going to time is a huge consideration. But.
I mean, I got by Brain Freeze today in the mirror.
Yeah.
Brain
Freeze will do it.
That kind of makes me want to just play Brain Freeze. Board and call it a day. And it's like, we're going to have a counter war, and then I'm going to Brain Freeze and maybe Vision Charm you, mill 8 cards or something like that.
Yeah. Andy just texted me. He's just like, be prepared to snap, allow a Cabal Therapy to resolve so that they don't name Counterspell.
Yeah.
That would have been ballsy. I was holding 2 Counterspells.
Yeah,
that's so good though. Andy's like a master. He's kind of like low key. I mean, he's probably not like, he's probably not like Red Shea. He's probably not like a Brian Selden type. But he's a master. He's full of powerful wisdom, and I think he just doesn't play the best deck. I guess his decks are Contamination Control, Mono Blue Tide, Breakfast, and Lodestone Boggle combo.
I think if you are a person who is confident that they can go long and they're not going to run out of gas, and like if you were like a robot or whatever, you didn't get hungry, you didn't get thirsty.
If you're optimal,
Tide is among the best choice.
Yeah.
If not the best choice.
You have a lot of control.
That's just my opinion.
You have a lot of control. Yeah. I mean, I see it.
You're a total donkey to survival of the fittest, though, I think.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's as a counterpoint. That's you kind of should have left it at that. You kind of
well, by the way,
disproved your own statement there, but we'll let it slide. Yeah. Dodge survival is the plan.
But it's Premodern. You can't be the best against everything. I get right. I don't know.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. Because the thing is, I'll be like, oh, the survival decks are good against Dreadnought, and then reports come in. Dreadnought beats Elves in the winning end. Dreadnought beats Survival Rock, in the finals tournament. David Cap, we had a little podcast episode where Kaplan beat Mike, and that created 3 hours of Tempting Worm related talk, where I'm just like, listen, if you think that you're gonna beat Dreadnought, you actually have to beat Dreadnought. I don't know, I just don't. I hate. Levine should just be watching everybody's matches, because he'll tell you. He'll tell you what you did.
If I were Levine, I'd play Tide, and I think Tide beats Dreadnought. That I will 100% hang my hat on.
I can see that. I'm supportive of that as a thing that I have no doubt that Levine would beat, because the thing that I always used to say, and this was when I played Parfait, was nobody has a friend who's good at playing Parfait, so they can never test against it.
Sure.
And so if you don't have Levine in your squad, like, he knows so much about that deck. Oh man, we're saying everyone should play Dreadnought. Now we're just like, Levine should play Tide.
But he's the Tide guy.
You're right.
You know,
you're right.
if you're the
well, what do you
guy,
think? So you know this much about me. What do you think? Am I the Grotog guy or am I a Dreadnought guy?
Well, you're definitely the Grotog guy. I don't know. I don't know enough about Grotog, honestly. It's like a tempo Xerox deck with Armageddon. Seems good. I should watch your YouTube video on it.
Yeah. Verdict is in. Seems good.
Yeah, seems good.
I mean, I love the deck. I just love playing it.
Like let's zoom out here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we were just at a tournament.
Yeah.
Andy and I scrubbed out. You got second place in what I would say is a pretty spiky tournament.
Borderline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the top 2 decks were not Dreadnought.
Yeah.
And all we're talking about is Dreadnought.
Well, that's the shadow that's over the format because JVL and Ben Kovacs were the only Dreadnought players that I spotted, and so we're talking 2 and 40. Like, my expectation is probably 4 or 5 and 40, and there were still some vibers and, like,
Of course.
you know. I'll have a chance to talk it out with Mike, but I think my matchups were against kind of a mix of vibers. And so, like, I beat Burn once. I won with Mystic Enforcer against the Survival Rock stuff, and again, some, like, sloppy play. I played against, so I just, like, won with Mystic Enforcer a lot because I just, like, put it in my deck, and then I got paired against Dead Guy Ale, Survival Rock, and I got paired against 4 black decks.
Oh, sure.
Like, with my Mystic Enforcer, well, I played against Burn twice, and then black midrange 3 times.
Yeah,
so, and then black midrange again, and then, like, a blue deck, and then, so, you know, I don't know, like, is Mystic Enforcer good? Yes. Can I make another deck that is better than Grotog and has Mystic Enforcer in it? Not enough time. But, like, am I the Grotog guy? Do I know what I'm doing in every matchup?
You're the Grotog guy for sure.
Do I know what I'm doing in every matchup? Do I have a great sideboard plan for when, like, you know, money's on the line and Mike Harris is facing you down with HFAB? Like, that's the thing is, like, one of the things, do you know the story of the Raska Bible and how I won the side event?
Remind me.
So I won the side event last year to sort of emphatically say that Dreadnought was just like, this was like the best deck that's ever been made in Premodern. And Raska gave me a very brief guide to it and a few, like, lines of help. And the thing is, like, it made me feel so powerful and confident. And I just knew I was going to win. And even if I lost, I knew that I was going to, like, enjoy myself while losing because I made all the right decisions because most of them were made for me. I had a sideboard guide. And so, like, I'm sitting there and I've got Grotog and I'm, like, staring down HFAB. And I was like, I've never explored this asymmetry in my deck of, like, what do I do if I get the Meddling Mage, but I just draw my other anti-survival cards. Like, what if I draw my cards in a weird order? Like, what if they just have a chroma? Like, do I plowshare? Like, how much defense do I have to hold up? Can I even expect to hold up infinite defense against Cabal Therapy? Those are the kind of questions that the Raska Bible sideboard guide effectively answered. That was just like, this is what you do.
Yes.
Against Enchantress, you do this.
Yeah.
Against Tarrageddon, maybe a little more amorphous because there's been evolution there, but, like, Stasis, black-white control, blue-white control, all these decks.
Dude, you're selling me on Dreadnought, man.
Yeah,
well, that sounds great.
Well, you go Vraska on Discord. Get yourself a copy of the Lord's book and the Doctor's book, the Doctor's notes, and, like, I mean, it's so good to be confident. It's so good to be like, I know exactly what I'm taking out. I know exactly what I'm putting in, and I know what my plan is. Like, I didn't even know what my plan was against Survival Rock. Like, my opponent cast a range tournament, and I looked at my sideboard, all my Pyroclasms were in the sideboard. And I was like, why didn't I board in Pyroclasm? Like, I was frazzled over my misplay that cost a game, but, like, I also just, like, I just didn't know what to take out, I didn't know what to put in, and so, like, the other thing is, like,
that's huge. The sideboard guide is huge.
Yeah. And you can write one for yourself. Like, if you know your deck, you can sit down and write one. And I haven't done that for Grotog because I change the deck every time I play it.
I think it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's time. This is slightly off topic, but let me ask, do you think that, like, the best
decks, we as players don't know they're the best decks because none of us are good enough to play them optimally.
Yeah. No.
So, like, they just get worse results than they should, ideally, if people were just better at making all the micro decisions.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
about it like
No.
if you play Pioneer, like Phoenix and Pioneer.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the Phoenix deck is just better than them all, but like there's so many decisions that people just like don't want to play it.
Yeah, I think that that's a very good point, and I think that that kind of plays into a lot of what we're talking about. But I think that the interesting thing is the idea that in Premodern, you could have a deck that is not being played at 100% and like could be better than Dreadnought, or if you played at 100% capacity, you probably would just build the best Dreadnought deck ever. Yeah. And you know what? HFEB is actually one of those decks that's extremely hard to play, and there's a bunch of people who are like devoting themselves to the HFEB blade, and like they've been doing it for years, and like time will tell if the perfect, if like the HFEB chosen one is going to rise. Maybe it's Mike Harris. Maybe the event, maybe LobsterCon is his chosen one. All right, Mike, you've gotten very long into the podcast at this point. I'm back on telling you that you should play HFEB because you're the chosen one. So shout out to Mike Harris and much love to Rich. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.
I assume this corner is okay enough.
Yeah, this
to
is
drop
perfect.
You off. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
I should let you get back to your wife.
Yeah,
your
that's
angry
the
wife.
plan. Well, I'll make it up to her.
Yeah.
I'm not buying the juicer that I promised her or any diamonds, but I'll do something nice with the less than minimum wage.
For sure. All right, thanks, Ben.
Take care. Yeah. And this has been Spike-Oni. I should I do need to cap this off. I gotta call Mike tomorrow for the final cap off. All right, take care.
Let me get my bags back out.
That's a good call. Yeah. It's unlocked. Everything's unlocked now if you need.
Later.
Bye. All right, I'm alone. That was a lot of fun. That was a fun talk. I hope everyone who listened to enjoy it. I think I'm gonna see if I can call Mike as like the last thing that I do, but I'm like 14 minutes from home, so we'll see what happens. But this has been a fun episode. I love just being on the street and live, and I don't know, the car podcast vibe is real. So anyways, thanks for listening. There might be one more thing. We'll see if Mike picks up.
All right, recording started. Yeah, I got second place with Mystic Enforcer.
Can you post the deck list somewhere? Maybe make a deck pick? Carrier Pigeon?
I should make a deck pick. I don't have deck pick resources right now. I might be able to do one today. It's just Grotog with Mystic Enforcer instead of Grotog.
All right, so
I put the list on my Mox Field too.
I don't use the internet. I don't know about Moxfield, but if you send me a link, I'll look at it. The funnier thing is, like, Lanny calls me and he's just like, "I'd like to end the podcast." I'm like, "Wait, what happened?" He's just like
no, end the podcast episode.
The podcast.
I would like to. So you don't know this, but I promised our listeners that I would call you after the tournament, and then I did, and then and so, like, the last thing the listeners are going to hear is like, "Okay, I'm going to call Mike," and then you didn't pick up the phone, which is fine because you had a bar mitzvah and it was like 10 o'clock. It's like, fine. I don't expect you to answer the phone anytime. But then I'm just editing the podcast. I'm like, well, I should still probably call Mike and tell him what happened.
Okay, so you came in second with Mystic Enforcer. Let me look at this: 4 Meddling Mage, 2 Mystic Enforcer, 4 Curian Dryad, 4 Portent, 2 Sleight of Hand, 4 Counterspell, 3 Days, 4 Gush, 4 Opt, 1 Ray, 4 Swords, 4 Mox, 2 Sylvan, 4 City, 4. This is just Grotog lands. Oh, a Windswept Heath. Look at you.
Yeah, Windswept Heath.
Mixing it up. This is Windswept Heath might be the worst card of this deck. You could just not have a target. Like,
you know what I do when I don't have a target? I just pitch that baby to Mox.
Discard that thing to a Mox. Yeah. Okay. 2-0.
Basic Force was excellent.
Oh, I'm sure.
Tapping a land that isn't City of Brass and making a color that isn't blue.
Let me tell you, listeners probably don't know, but you could check out Mash Legs' Twitch channel. They just played like 3.5 hours with 23andMe on Friday, and I rewatched it yesterday. I liked it so much. 23andMe looks awesome, Lanny. Like, looks spectacular.
I'll promise $250 to anybody who wins a 32-person or larger tournament with 23.
They didn't have the version that had windswept teeth because I don't know if you remember, but
Basic Forest,
Dr. Richard Shea said we need one more land. So I was just like, well, we could cut 4 lands, add 4 windswept heaths, which gives us additional deck touching, and then just like it's like Elfhame Palace like blows. Right, I wanted Painless Green, but Elfhame Palace is terrible, and so Match League still had the Elfhame Palace version. Like you could literally just play Elfhame Palace, and then somebody wastelands it. You can't have access to your Gaia's Blessing in hand, but it looked spectacular, Lanny, like so good. I think they did better than break even, but like 2 of the matches I straight up would have won from the same spot. Like one of the matches, the guy lost with 7 cards in hand. 3 of them were counter spells when he just like refused to counter a symbiote, which was obvious to correct to counter on like turn 3, and then he was at 1 life with a Flooded Strand in play with 7 cards in hand and refused to absorb a 1/1 elf. Right, like if he absorbs 1/1 elf, it turns on his Flooded Strand. Right, instead he's like, I have 7 cards in hand, I could beat that elf. Turns out he couldn't. Right, so if he just absorbs the 1/1 elf from 1 life, I'm sure he wins the game with 7 cards in hand, 3 of them are pink.
And for the people who've been lost for approximately 6 weeks or something, 23andMe is Mike's blue-white control with Gaia's Blessing deck that the primary engine is casting Sabo's Web, and then once you realize your opponent has no lands with activated abilities that aren't mana abilities,
dismantling blow your own Sabo's Web.
The usual suspects are in it, Factor Fiction, I don't know, Decree of Justice is in there probably.
Yeah, so the ways that you win are you just basically just cast Factor Fiction, flipping over Gaia's Blessing, sometimes Gaia's Blessing for whatever card is good in the matchup over and over again.
It's just a deck that draws cards, and
it is a deck that touches the deck. Let's not get crazy about drawing cards. This deck doesn't even have...
I can't imagine it wins any games where like Goblin Ringleader resolves, or Parallax Tide resolves, or Armageddon resolves, or Weather Wayfarer resolves, or I don't know, even Quirion Dryad resolves, or...
Okay, so Quirion Dryad is a low bar. This is, I mean, he did lose to your previous version of Girl and Mystic Enforcer, I think, because they which didn't have Meddling Mage, but the opponent drew 3 Meddling Mages in the first 4 turns, and he let one resolve.
You're talking about Best Attack.
Best Attack. Sorry, yeah. So he let one of the Meddling Mages resolve because he was like, "Oh, I've got this," right? But then there was a 3rd Meddling Mage. He's like, "I no longer have this."
All right, Mike. So... this podcast episode is about the bearded tournament. So you have to ask me your questions about the bearded tournament.
Okay. Here are my questions. So you lost to Hike Maris in the finals on Feb.
That's correct.
That's terrible for a Meddling Mage / Counterspell / Ray of Revelation deck, I have to tell you. Not impressed.
Awkwardly enough, first you cast Meddling Mage naming Survival of the Fittest, right? And then it gets stuck behind Wall of Roost while you just draw 4 Disenchant.
That seems great. That sounds straight up great. Well, what happened?
So you can so then Mike Harris had 8 mana. And he cast Chroma Angel's Wrath.
He just cast it.
Yeah.
And you didn't have Counter Magia. You didn't have Swords to Plowshares.
I had lands and Mox Diamonds.
Well, that looks like a spot where your Mystic Enforcer might have lost in combat.
It would have. Yeah, it was the only creature. The only creature that tussles with the big cat.
Capable of. So I noticed this deck has 2 Sylvan Libraries and no mana control in the main deck. You're really leaning into Mike stops playing red, right? Because this version could never beat a red deck.
It's definitely worth. I mean, Daze is excellent against Burn, right?
But I always played around Daze, even though you didn't have any Daze.
Yeah. Well, game 1, I played against Burn twice, and game 1 you can only win if you're like on the play, or like you can put a Dryad in play on a turn where you have like you can make it a 4/4 instantaneously. So that involves like Dryad, Daze, Gust, Cantrip, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously you need a big guy, and then you need them not to kill you, right? Like that's and you need like a window. If they don't kill you, you're probably going to beat them with your big guy. Yeah, it's the same thing on the half combo with Replenish, right? Like
this is the weird story of the tournament was that like because they got a judge, they got this guy Jeremy. You probably he's probably judged an RCQ that you've played. and
I
he
know
was
who
like, "We're
Shakey
gonna
is.
play this at RCQ REL, right?" And so everyone who's just like used to like, I don't know, getting drunk and playing Premodern, all of a sudden like had to like say the right words and like put the like do things in the right order and remember what cards did because none of them do what's printed on the card. And so my opponent just like so my opponent says volcanic hammer, and then I just adjust my life total from 7 to 4, right? And he's like, no, I'm targeting the dryad. And I was like, okay. And then nothing happens, and he's like, is the dryad dead? And it's the dryad with 3+1/+1 counters like labeled on it. And I was just kind of like, no. So I felt kind of bad, but then I was like, but the opponent agreed that they had made a mistake, but I was just like, I would just never do this if it was like meetup. But realized that I was like playing really hard because my deck kind of, so I need my opponent to accidentally like.
Wait, did you
not
say you broke up for a second? You were playing hard because your deck sucked? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay,
Like, I
just
would
clarify.
just like give my opponent like every take back if I was playing Dreadnought, right? Like, oh, it just doesn't matter. Like, you're just dead, right? But instead, I'm playing Grotog, and so like the same thing kind of continuously happens. Like like I was playing against like opponents who like I like as a person and who don't want to like hardball, but they were like they showed up 5 minutes late to the match, so they got like a game lost. And like I called the judge over because I was just like, hey, like my opponent's late. Can I get the 5 minutes? Can we get the 5 minutes back? And my opponent was like, no, there's a game lost. And then the opponent comes back to the table, and then we're like, and he was like, oh, actually, you get 5 minutes back. And I was like, oh, so no game lost. He's like, no, you get 5 minutes back, and it's a game lost. So
Man,
like,
prison rules.
I game lost another opponent, and then in the semifinals, first I self-owned because I like made a really bad Sylvan Library decision, and then I hardballed. I didn't like I didn't angle or anything. I just like cast Armageddon, and my opponent says that resolves, and then he said like, oh, I guess I'll float 2 mana, and then the judge held play, and then he sat there in silence for a second, and he was like, you let him put his lands in the graveyard and whatever. So like that you said it results. It's like I can't rewind that or whatever. And the whole thing, I was just like, wait, it's insane because I was just like not used to it from Premodern, and I also kind of felt weird because I was just like, I don't actually. Okay, this is the reason why I thought it felt weird. I felt like it proved the haters right that like when we're like playing these stakes, we end up like being less like I don't know generous opponents
Friendly.
if you have like
I actually was gonna say the opposite because we're both first losers. Did we talk about this on the podcast? I played with Andy and Detail in the trios.
Yeah.
We came in.
And Andy brought up that we're the new second place curse.
Yeah, we're
we've picked up the Brian Lonergan.
We're the first losers, right? So and I was just like, oh, I'll win when it matters, and it finally mattered because like I never won a match that it mattered because Detail and Andy just don't lose, right? Like Andy didn't lose the whole day. Detail lost
team
one
event,
match.
two people have to win, so you only win, the other two were winning or won.
Yeah, so
anyways.
either I won or it didn't matter, or you know what I mean? Like, I lost or it didn't matter, like the whole day. So we're in the finals, and Detail loses real quick, which is like not knock on Detail. I think it was in a bad matchup. I don't know anything about Vintage, but he lost real fast, right?
It's
so
right, yeah.
I'm still in game 1, and I'm like way ahead. But man, contemporary Magic, man. Like I literally have my opponent dead 3 ways from Sunday, 3 turns in a row, and he has to runner the One Ring, and he does. He's far ahead on resources because he has 3 with the One Rings consecutively, and then he just kills me the following.
It's not really runner, right? Because each One Ring draws 3 cards, so it's like runner for impulse, runner impulse. Like.
Yeah, so basically he's on like 5 or 7 or something. I have 2 Pyroglyphs in play, a Pyroglyph in my hand, and a Fabled Airbreaker about to flip. He's dead so many ways. He has to triple runner the One Ring.
You can read all about this on Cool Stuff Inc.
Anyway, we are first loser. But the thing that I wanted to tell you is I had the opposite experience. Like my opponents would look at my hand with a duress, or I don't know, however they looked at your hand in Legacy. It's been so long, a whole week. But I just like played my hand face up. I'm like, whatever, Maybe that's why I'm first loser.
I did that actually, so I wasn't like I just did. It was like muscle memory for me, right? but then it got to these points where it was like, oh, like, you know, look, in the purest form of the game, like, you know, we should just be battling, and whoever just battles better wins, right? So if there's like a dumb verbal thing or like a dumb whatever, like, you know, like it's just like the order that your opponent says words like shouldn't determine a match of Magic if you believe in this kind of thing, right? Obviously you can get angled and this can be exploited, and like the judging is to make it so that it's just equal for everyone no matter what. There's no like, you know, there's no gray area type stuff, but you know, it's a thing for me.
I think my preference is actually, you know, I've you know gone native, right? So I play more generously, less harsh, whatever you want to call it, right? But even in like RCQs, I just play hands up or whatever. I don't care. Like it hasn't penalized me, right? I just actually win just as much.
Well, yeah, I mean,
right.
The deeper thing is it's not so much like small things. It's just more like take back culture.
Oh, take backs.
Right?
Yeah. So
like there's a range of take backs. Like obviously there's take backs that are like egregious, but like there's small take backs. Like basically one take back was like nothing happened and I wanted my Sylvan, like I wanted to redo my Sylvan, and the other take back was like nothing happened and my opponent wanted, like, we had a judge watching the match, so you can't even like ask for a take back if a judge was watching the match, right?
So in a meetup, I usually just give unlimited takebacks, but in a tournament of whatever type, I usually call the judge, let both players explain the situation, and ask the judge if the takeback is appropriate. That's what I'll do in that situation. Like I actually asked for a takeback in the team event because I made a play and Andy stopped me, right? He stopped me, and my opponent was just like, well, he made the play, and the judge was like, in a team tournament, his opponent can like actually speak with his voice, you know, basically, right?
That's a very interesting, weird caveat, but I'm just saying, like, you know, if I guess I don't know, but I assume that the judging policy, like, for instance, if like, the minutia of the situation is very interesting, right? So I have a Mox Diamond face up in my hand because it's known info. I've been duressed. So then I Sylvaned, and then I like moved the card from the deck zone to my hand zone, and then I realized that I Sylvaned the wrong card. I just realized. Like,
this sounds like the game Storia tournament that you won 5 years ago. I don't want to hear any more about this.
No, because I didn't commit a GRV, right? I just asked the judge throughout the whole thing. I was like, what can I do here? Like, can I choose a different card? Can I look at my cards? Can I, you know, what can I do? And, you know, he was just like, I would barely allow you to look at your card, look at the top of your library after you place it back on the library. But, you know, he was like, you know, no, you put it into your hand. Like, I don't know what card you drew. And I was like, well, it's the face down card because my other card's face up. So it was like all this weird minutia, right? But if it was just like, you know, if it was just meet up, I would just be like, oh, I Sylvan wrong. Can I re-Sylvan?
Lanny, we gotta end this. So
yeah.
I will just tell you, in the RCQ I won last year, I committed to GRV, and I asked what the potential choices I had were, and the judge was like, you could concede, or you could play with like the severest penalty I've ever heard of. I played with the severest penalty, which was playing with my hand face up and my opponent duressing me, which was unreal how bad that is.
You drew 7 on your mulligan or something?
On a mulligan. I play face up and he duresses me is the thing. He duresses me for Sunfall, and I ended up winning that game because I drew 3 more Sunfalls. It was savage.
Yeah.
Okay, let's end this one. Congratulations on being first loser. You're echoing the new Spike Colony tradition. I first losered in the trios. You first losered. And this is just like
you also first loser like
first
multiple
loser the meetup.
Yeah.
I'm first loser every meetup now.
Yeah.
But I'm like SWB's biatch.
Yeah.
So, or now Spencer's biatch. Whoever has the plot armor that day, they can take my former meetup crowns. So
yeah, you're the Washington Generals, right? You're whoever the Harlem Globetrotters defeat.
Yeah, I'm whoever that is.
Yeah, I think it's called Washington, whatever. All right. Thanks for the call, Mike, and I'm glad the listeners got to hear from you at least a little bit this episode.
We'll be back to normal soon, right? I just had to celebrate, you know, the manhood of a young Jewish boy.
Yeah, this weekend we'll try to get things back on track with your usual Spike Colony programming. But this is a 2-hour, 45-minute episode. So
I can't wait to listen to it. Although I also listen to ours.
Game over.